Good evening, Littleton. This is the Select Board meeting for September 26th, 2022. We'll begin tonight in executive session, returning to open session at 6:30. Mr. Clerk, if you would please read the motion.
Sorry.
Okay.
You just asked
on the
for
screen?
I'm just going along. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, sure you're ready.
Move the select board vote to approve, nope,
Check.
I got it. Move the select board vote to enter into executive session number 1 pursuant to Master Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Clause 2, to conduct strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, police, dispatch, and highway. The select board will adjourn to executive session and will reconvene in open session after the executive session.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. Roll call vote. Mr. Rombacher.
Yes.
Mr. DeCoste. Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Ms. Napoli.
Yes.
And the chair's in favor. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes. Great.
Sorry about that.
You didn't know any better. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back from our executive session to open session. We are beginning our regular select board meeting for September 26th, 2022. We will begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Clerk, if you would lead us.
Thank you.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Quick summary of tonight's agenda. We'll start with department and board updates, approval of donations, update on the town sewer project, updated classification and compensation plan. Everyone's excited about that one. Information technology will update us on the Civic Ready platform and progress on archiving town documents. Public input will follow. Then we will discuss the special town meeting, which is going to take place on November 1st, finalize the warrant. And then after that, we'll have select board discussions regarding Nagog Orchard, our goals for the year, discussing potentially a way to recognize Ed Howard of Ed's Weenies. And then finally, the town administrator update on snow removal preparation, contracts with waste management, Lazaro Paving, Teagan Bond for landfill monitoring, approval of contracts with Howard Stein for transportation planning, Green International for the roadway reconstruction project, and approval of a side letter agreements pertaining to benefits for the police, dispatch, and highway unions. Finally, we will approve the shortest set of minutes I've ever seen from September 19th, 2022. So let's begin with mail. Mr. Town Administrator, please let us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one thing, in your packet, there's an email from Representative Sierra's office confirming the sidewalk check presentation photo opportunity at 11 o'clock on October 11, 2022.
Great, thank you. Elder and Human Services, approval of donations. Hello.
Hi, good evening. I'm here tonight to request the approval of a donation we received for $500 for the TREAD Fund, which is tax relief for the elderly and disabled. We received the $500 from the Friends of the Littleton Council on Aging. This year, our TREAD Fund has had the highest amount of interest that we've ever seen, and going back at least 5 or so years. So this donation will be extremely helpful for us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there any select board discussion on this item?
Sure. Move that the select board vote to approve the donation of $500 from the Friends of the Littleton Council on Aging for the tax relief for the elderly and disabled TREAD Fund.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, friends.
All right. Littleton Water Department, update on the town sewer project. Welcome, Mr. Lawler.
Is it done yet?
Is it done yet?
Nick Lawler, General Manager, Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to update you guys on the sewer project. We sat down with Chuck and Anthony maybe a month ago or so, and Chuck thought it'd be a good idea to come here and update you all on progress we've made so far with the sewer project. At a real high level, we're at about 100% design. We're not considered 100% until we get the feedback from DEP with the discharge permit. So it could change slightly depending on those comments, but in all reality, it's 100%. The discharge permit is due back to us in October, so we're hoping middle of October we have the discharge permit in hand, which allows us to go out to bid, and allows us to kind of begin the construction on the sewer project, having that discharge permit in hand. Obviously, the timing's not great for construction. We're still going to move forward with the bidding schedule that was presented at the last Board of Water Commissioners meeting last month, which has us bidding in October, opening bids in December, trying to line up contractors before the busy season in the spring, when most of these contractors are doing this type of work. So we're trying to get that in hand well before winter, so they can line up the schedules and hopefully receive favorable pricing for this project. Yeah, so open bids in December. The thing that we're struggling with right now and kind of working through is the betterment fee policy, which I should have a draft sometime this week to put in front of the Board of Commissioners. The discharge permit's going to come in at 244,000 gallons per day. That's what we're anticipating as a max day flow. We were thinking it'd come in as an average day flow, but Central Region DEP does it in max day. So we have to kind of rethink on how to allocate that flow out to the area that we're going to service. So there'll be a process for reservation, so you can reserve capacity through that betterment fee policy that would allow projects that are already under design and concept that they'd be able to reserve capacity from the sewer system. But we got to be extremely careful how we allocate that out, because 244,000 gallons could be consumed rather quickly, especially where it's a max day flow. So that's really the biggest kind of hurdle we have now, is trying to figure out how to reserve that capacity, how to set the betterments. We've been working closely with Anthony, the finance team, and the select board representatives on that issue. And hopefully that'll be resolved in October.
Thank you.
So I don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the 244,000 gallon capacity, so does that include project like 550 King Street,
Yep.
the Albion site? Is that already like factored into that, or do they need to reserve for their capacity?
So the way that betterment schedule is going to work out, it's off of current water usage, which obviously isn't a lot for that property, which is why we need a betterment fee policy that would allow them to reserve capacity, but pay the betterment from day one. Because, one of the most important things for us is to make sure that the cost of this project comes in as a low impact to the town as possible.
Right.
So there would be a process that happens that they would reserve capacity, so then they could build that project at any speed that they want to build it.
Okay. So they really need to decide on the number of units and what is going to be on that site so that they can follow through with that process and reserve.
Yeah, and I think it's important for the select board and the commissioners to continue having those conversations that make sure we're driving that and not them. Because otherwise, I'm sure that developer would take every ounce we could give them. But there's other goals for the town. There's economic development through the whole common that we want to make sure that we leave capacity for.
Right. And just one more, so has the mill been factored in to that capacity, or is that just not on the, is that part of the design?
Under existing.
Just under existing.
Under existing
Yep.
usage? Okay.
Yep, which I believe is about 80,000 gallons per day.
Okay.
Existing max day usage in the town common.
Okay. Great.
That
Thanks.
includes the town properties as well.
Okay.
Other questions?
If 550 and Northern and everything get built out, do we know what capacity we would expect?
Yeah, Northern was small. I think they were around 3,000 gallons per day, so that's not a high impact. I believe the numbers originally shown as part of 550 King Street project were in the 160,000 gallon range. So we're pushing up on that number just with that project alone.
But it's also important to remember that as that's being built out, it's going to be built over time, which gives us some flexibility to
Yep, and those are
manage flows and
those are Title V
get
flows.
the data as it comes in.
Yep, those are Title V flows, so real flows might not match those flows. Yep, there's some thought that needs
It's all
to
speculation right now.
be put into that, yep.
So you obviously don't know what it's going to cost until you send it out to bid. So what are your sort of emergency backup plans if it comes in higher than expected or much higher than expected?
It's going to come in higher than expected.
What if it comes in lower than expected? What are you going to do with the excess? No, I mean, what are our options if,
Yep.
if there's a shortfall?
Yeah, so if we remember, we had $25 million borrowing authorization from last fall's town meeting. Our numbers that we're looking at show around 33 million. Well, we won't know until we actually bid it. The numbers are very fluid, they change every month. But that's what we're anticipating. We've already cut $3 million out of construction services through negotiations with CDM Smith. So we've already saved $3 million potentially. I know Anthony is working closely with Rep. Arcero and Senator Eldridge on that earmark that was in the formal legislation, was in there for this project, the economic bill that didn't make it through the formal legislative process. But all indications are it should come out of informal session. So there should be some sort of earmark there for Littleton for this project. Then we have a $19 million MassWorks grant as well, application that's in. So hopefully, and that was October, I believe that was due to be awarded if we were to get some funds out of that. So I think the delays actually help us with that piece of the puzzle, but that's probably the only piece that helps us with. So
Because the MassWorks grant will come
because
back
the-
and
yeah,
we'll
the
know
funding.
how much we get from that before you have.
Right,
yeah.
because we wouldn't have been able to award a contract without having funding in place.
Okay,
So hopefully, between the legislation and the MassWorks grant, we should be able to have some backup options to augment that authorization with.
great, thank you.
Nick and I also have worked with Laurie Trahan, Congresswoman Trahan's office, on seeing what could be done on the federal level to support this project too. So, what was that, a couple of weeks ago, we met with one of her staff members, so keeping it on their radar
Very
as
good.
well.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate the
Yep.
update.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, 3C, acceptance of $200,000 gift from the Water Commissioners. Mr. Ansaldi,
We're going to table that till
Okay.
the next meeting. The Ivan Pegasic, Commissioner of the Water Department, couldn't make it this evening, so we just asked to hold this off till October
Okay.
12th.
Very good, thank you. 3D, Finance and Human Resources, updated classifications and compensation plan. Never thought I'd see the day, but here it is.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle Vibert, the Human Resources Director.
Good evening, Honorable Select Board, Alicia Nunley Benjamin, Finance Director.
We want to thank you for hearing this tonight. The day has finally come, as Matthew has said. I want to give a general overview of what this is. So back in 2019, the town had hired GovHR as a consultant to do a compensation study. The goals of the study were, basically, we had a lot of compression in our current grid, and what that means is we had supervisors that were, right above where their subordinate was falling in place on the grid. There wasn't really much room for growth for individual employees going from their step 1 to step 10, and it was just very, very compressed. So with GovHR's data, which was finally finalized at the end of July of this year, due to unforeseen circumstances, which we won't get into, they finalized their competitive data of the market. We're trying to stay competitive with the market that we're in right now, and it's a really tough market for hiring. So we were also trying to increase our ability to hire. So that was the goal of the entire comp study. So at the end of July, the town decided to form a committee of Gary, I won't really call it a committee, but a group of Gary Wilson, Bill Schmidt, who is the chair of the Personnel Advisory Committee, and I say our retired treasurer, but our former treasurer, Steve Venuti. And what they did was they took the data that GovHR supplied, and they really worked to create a grid expanding the current grid. What they did was expand it from, we have currently 15 grades on our grid, and they expanded it to 24, as you can see, that was in your packet. So this allowed, again, more room for hiring, more room for expansion within the organization, and they really worked to maintain not only external equity, but internal equity in doing so. And it was a very thoughtful process. So in doing this process, I do want to point out, we met with the Personnel Advisory Committee, who is in support of the grid changing itself from 15 grades to 24. with the understanding that that's really phase one of this entire project. Phase two of the project is more individual position descriptions review that may have significantly changed since collecting all the external data, because it was several years ago that this was started. And that would need to be approved by the department head and then brought forth to HR and then to the town administrator's office if it warrants a significant change in the job description, which could change where positions fall on this grid. I just do want to also point out that there may be budgetary impacts if positions do shift around, which if this is approved at town meeting in the fall, that could cause somebody to come back at one of your meetings and present a job description that has significantly changed and warrant a grade change, which could increase the need for funding and have an additional budget impact. I will let Alicia talk to the financial portion of the grid.
Good evening, everyone. So as I was scrubbing through the grid, the financial impact was actually less than expected because included in the analysis was the LCTV Enterprise Fund and the PRCE, Parks and Recs, revolving fund employees. So the total that it will affect the operating budget for 23 is $48,609, which is less than we expected.
That's the blended number?
That's the general fund number.
That's the general fund number.
Okay.
The delta of a couple $1,000s, probably less, is made up of those two enterprise funds that Alicia discussed earlier.
All right, comments from the board?
I mean, I'll speak a little bit to some of the things to expect going forward. Like was stated, this is really phase one. We were charged with creating a grid to reduce compression, and I think we did that. And we moved all positions into that grid from the current grid, the positions as they are today. And in doing so, I think we noticed probably, or I definitely noticed, it's probably a good idea for this board to consider relooking every position. This is such a significant change to the town that it probably warrants the Personnel Advisory Committee and then others, if I have to be involved, or to look at each position individually to see if it's changed. Or when we initially graded this, each position, one of the factors that kind of goes unspoken is when you're dealing with a grid of 15, part of that discussion is, well, I can't grade this person exactly where we want it because they'd be making more than the supervisor, or they'd be out of whack with the rest of the department. So I think that's something that we really need to look at. We gave ourselves a lot of flexibility in here to do that, but I would expect changes over the next year if we can truly go back and look at this, understanding that the first ones to be looked at should be the individuals and the managers that believe individuals in their departments need to be updated, or they're not updated, or they feel that it needs to change. So that's probably definitely part of phase two. With that could be a budgetary impact. So even though we're savings here, because the personnel bylaws are no longer in existence with the personnel board and everything, so the select board has a much more flexibility if throughout the year any of these positions on the back of this sheet do change or they do warrant an update, whether it's moved up a grade or whatever, we can actually vote to do that. Obviously, making sure we have the money to be able to do that, or whether we have to wait till the next town meeting. But I think, in general, it was a very good process. I think it did point out some holes. I know Mark and I had a long conversation today. He's got some interesting take on some of the things with titling some of the positions, cleaning up some of the position descriptions so that it's a little more consistent. An assistant is an assistant is an assistant. When you look on the grid, it isn't. They're all over the place. So just things like that. But this is a great first phase, and I think it's going to make us much more competitive going forward. And I really think that the employees of the town, once this is fully done, hopefully by next town meeting, we'll have everybody where they belong. This is good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Other comments?
So I did talk to Gary a bit, and I talked to Steve a bit about this as well. Because some of them were just confusing to me is what we're doing. Like, there's 4 different administrative assistants and they're graded differently, right? And then there's a bunch of things that are called office coordinators. They range in grade from 6 to 10, I think it is, or something. And it's like, it's hard when you're going through this to actually tell what is what. And, you know, some jobs that have supervisory aren't as separated from the employees as I would have expected. It doesn't, I mean, this is a good step in the right direction, but I don't think, as Gary said, we need to go through and clean up the job descriptions and potentially regrade people after this. There's, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this, I don't know if we were sitting back thinking that this was going to be a silver bullet and was going to solve a lot of problems, because that's definitely not the case. We did have some challenges that we didn't call out specifically, but the fact that we had such great collaboration between the two of you with Steve, Bill, and Gary, there's been a lot of time, effort, and energy put into this. First of all, thank you very much for all of you for all of that effort and that collaboration. I do agree with what Gary and Mark had brought up about position descriptions. I think that's critical. It helps us to set expectations for employees, and just if you have somebody that's working for Department A and they're in a certain role, but they want to move to Department B and there's just not uniformity or standardization, that can create challenges and has created challenges in the past. The one thing that I wanted to kind of ask about, and with I understand the compression and the expansion here, I think that this is great because it allows a lot of upward mobility for folks. And it allows folks that are bumping up against the ceiling right now the opportunity to kind of continue to grow, frankly, financially. And so I'm grateful for that on behalf of the employees. And I do think it's a fluid document. We have to keep working with it and just making improvements as we identify what those improvements need to be. Thank you.
And before we go to Cindy, if I add one more thing.
Sure.
Thank you. I have, there's one thing that I will mention. This will be a pink sheet at the next town meeting in November. This is not, so I would ask that this board meet as close to town meeting as we can, whether it's right before or as well as the Finance Committee, because this will change. And that's based on some things that we weren't able to do a dive into before this goes to print. And that includes the collective bargaining agreements we have to now align some of their things with this. So some of these positions are going to change even before town meeting. So that'll have to be something that's printed late, and we'll have to get a vote on it. So.
Great, thanks. Thank you for your work on this, appreciate it, appreciate the update. I just was going to ask about the townwide organization chart. We had talked about that at our retreat, about getting that updated. I just am a visual learner. I think it just will be helpful if we could have that, just to take, as we look at this, to be able to look at that chart and have a comprehensive view of our structure.
They kind of go hand in hand, right? One begets the other. If we have this tighter than it has been, we can kind of construct that a little bit more easily.
Yeah.
My only question was on the budget impact numbers. I assume that's all in with step increases and cost of living increases, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so the bottom line is that without changing any of the grades or steps based on reclassification, it's about little less than $100,000 for fiscal year '24 to put this new grid in place and put all the employees in the new grid. That's correct? That's what I'm reading from this
Yeah,
document.
but I think that's all gonna change, like they said, it's fluid, and I think once we reevaluate, those numbers are gonna change.
Of course, understood, but.
And that
the-
number will fluctuate a little bit because you do have vacancies as well. So
Okay.
you're budgeting for a certain number at that time, so it shifts
Thank you.
around.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chair, if we make, I wanted to make sure if Bill or Steve
Yeah.
had a comment, anything to add?
What I do now?
I was just wanted to know, no, you guys did so much work on this, and I just wanted to see if you had any comments that I might have missed, or if you wanted to add.
The, up there?
Yeah, if you want to
probably,
speak.
just- Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Bill Schmidt, Personnel Action Committee. We've had some lengthy discussions about the transition from a grade 15 to a grade 24. Personnel Action Committee likes the idea, and we support going from the grade 15 grid to the grade 24 grid.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I make jokes about how long this has been in process, but I do very much appreciate everyone's hard work on it. It's obviously been a huge endeavor with many complications along the way, but I think that having us be a competitive town that's offering competitive wages and benefits is important to retaining talent, which is obviously important to our town administration, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support in doing so. It was a lot of work, but we have a great team that worked diligently to get this over the finish line, so.
Great. Okay. And there's no motion for this, correct?
Correct. We're going to be discussing it as part of the warrant.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
we want to see
Thank
if
you.
any of the employees want to speak?
Sure. Do any employees want to speak about it? No? We'll move on to information technology.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Pull up that first.
So we wanted to provide the board with an update, let you know that we're looking to upgrade our emergency notification system to a system called Civic Ready. So we are hoping to launch this in the very near future. We have a little schedule that we've developed for this, but basically this is the way we can reach out for emergency or other high-profile items that both our office and the board wants to let the community know about, things that are happening that are critical. So this will be done via email, text, voicemail, and cell phone and landlines. So what we are providing here is the capacity for people who subscribe to get those notices. They also have the right then to opt out at any time that they want to as well.
Let me add to it. So one of the things that we've always talked about is, as issues come up, whether it be the senior center on Shattuck Street and notifying the Shattuck residents, this would be an opportunity for us to really push the non-emergency contacts, because if we were gonna have something on the agenda like the senior center that impacts Shattuck Street, you know, we could just go into this program, kind of put a circle around Shattuck Street, and it would just send them a notification that we're gonna be discussing at the select board meeting. So, you know, one of the things that we heard is really helping the residents be more aware of what's going on, besides just signing up for the emails and so forth.
That's
So
great.
we're hoping to push that. Non-emergency is just as important as emergency sometimes too, in order to stay informed.
Great.
And on the emergency side of things, what this will allow us to do would be reach out for evacuations, shelters in place, boil orders, public health issues, road closures, et cetera. We also sometimes have to be able to get out other changes, like updates on town meeting changes, if we had to change the location to the date, and to get out to people as well. So again, there's sometimes that there's the sort of more emergency related, and then, as Anthony said, sometimes it's more mild, or things that we still want to keep the community informed of, and need to get that information to them immediately. We don't have the benefits that we used to have of local newspapers as active as we used to have, so this is really an important tool for us.
And how does this relate, how does this interface with reverse 911?
This will be.
This will replace it,
Yes.
supplant it?
Right.
This is-
And it works with our current web provider. So And we're looking and working on updating our website too, so it kind of packages everything nicely.
But to be clear, the emergency is not an opt-in issue. It's pushed to everybody.
We do have the list of emergency notifications that if we need to send something out, but, you know, if people sign up and really select what they want, that would help us too.
Thank you.
If I may, Mr.
Yep.
Chair? Oh, sorry. How are we going to make the public aware of this?
It's going to come up on another slide.
Oh, okay,
Sure,
perfect.
sure.
Can I
So-
ask 2 questions? How does this go in with like the light and water notifications or the school notifications, or are they completely separate?
They're completely
So
separate.
someone has to sign up for all 3?
Correct.
At the opt-in element, because, you know, there's the part of things where people, hey, why am I getting these messages that I didn't sign up for? So that's how this would be set up.
Yeah, so I was wondering if we can get them so that you only opt in one place, even if they're different systems.
They really don't interface all 3. And one thing that we realize is when we were sending out during COVID emergency notifications and using our current system, which is the same that Light and Water used, a whole bunch of people in Boxborough were getting our messages and calling us up, you know, wanting to opt out and so forth. So this really lets us focus on Littleton.
So much like the communication that we get on our phones right now, if you get a dentist appointment, a doctor's appointment,
Exactly.
like that, you know, smile reminder and all these other
And
services
sometimes
that are provided.
I like getting those instead of getting the phone call, you know, getting the text message, and people can decide how they want to get that message.
And there's options there. Do you want it as a text message? Do you want it as an email? So different ways in which, you know, you can customize as to how you want to be communicated with. So that's really important. So just to remind everybody, we have 2 options, which is the e-alert. So these are typically what you'd see for notifications you receive for, you know, if you're interested in the planning board, for example, you're going to get agendas, minutes that come available, and any other news and announcements related to that. And then what we're talking about today, which is the Civic Ready piece, which is, you know, new notifications for both emergency and sort of impact town notices that you're going to be seeing. So, so to get to Cindy's question, what we're intending to do to let citizens know about this, we're going to start the rollout tomorrow, where we're going to be putting up some news and announcements on our town website to make people aware of this. We're also talking about putting together some flyers for the special town meeting to be able to hand out and make people aware of it. But also send, the next step is to go to our current reverse 911 system, which is code red, and letting those subscribers, informing them that the new system is in place and how they can go forward and then pick out, you know, customize what they want to see. And then we're also looking at the EHS November newsletter. So, so that is basically what we're looking to do in terms of rollout, and we think it's an improvement. And we, you know, looking forward to working with Civic Ready on this. Nancy Glencross is our you know, lead on this, and Nancy would be here tonight, but she had a bit of a dental emergency, so she sends her regrets. But this is what we're moving toward. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. One other thing that we wanted to tell you about that the IT team is also working on is this documents portal.
This is the electronic records management that we've probably been discussing for quite a few years. It's finally getting going, and Ryan can pop you in just to show you what we have. So right now, we have all of the town meeting warrants going back to 2007.
Mm-hmm.
It's not showing on the screen, though, when you click that.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
And then if you can back up, just so they can see.
Okay. Okay.
Hit the,
And I'll go back. Sorry.
yeah,
Yep.
please. So if you selected all town meeting warrants, and let's just say you want to look up something with the Orchard, then you just typed in NAGOG. That's gonna bring up all the various town meeting warrant articles that had the word NAGOG in it. And, you know, if you were looking for a certain road closure, and we didn't want to, you know, one of the things, you can't really go back on our website now and say, I know we did that at some point in time, you got to look at every directory to find it. Now you just throw in a keyword, you know, any road that you wanted to look up, pick one that we may have done in the last 10 years or so,
And
then
this will look at PDFs that aren't, that it OCRs
it
everything.
OCRs everything, right, yeah.
Right, that's the
Fine.
difference.
Yeah, finally, right. So this is phase one, and then we're hoping to get all of the meeting minutes up there. We do have a senior tax work-off person that's gonna start scanning these documents and putting it in there, so we're hoping to build this out even more so, and it'll make searching our archives a lot quicker.
Is there a link on the website to this directly, or does it just get integrated with the search?
It is, I believe it's under the select board page, but I can send that link out to you tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Sure.
that's great.
Another question.
Yeah.
If someone can someone opt for email, text, voicemail, and cell phone? I mean, can you opt in for all
Yeah, you
notifications?
can. Yeah.
So, no,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just picking one, you can have all four, okay. Yeah, Brian, you just brought up notifications, and it's not necessarily, definitely not related to this, but when we receive notifications for a planning board hearing or a board of health meeting or whatnot, we get an email that just says, you've been notified there is a meeting, but it doesn't give you the date of the meeting or the time. You have to click on it and go to the website, but I think in that front page, if there's a way to change that so that people can just at a glance see kind of the when and where.
I've talked to
can
Nancy
look
about that
Have you?
before.
Yeah.
It is possible. It requires retraining of the,
People that are entering it?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But this is a new system, Chuck, I'll look into that and see,
Okay.
because that does make more sense, because a lot of times you don't necessarily want to go into a lot of detail, you just want to know when is this happening, what's the time, and then, just kind of seeing the headline, sometimes is all you really need.
If you know there's something on the agenda that you want to see and just want to see, okay, when is that?
Right.
When is the meeting? You don't
Yeah,
need
so it's a
to
point
necessarily see the
taken,
whole,
so, yeah, let me look into that and report back to you.
gotten that feedback as well.
I guess the last thing, when did we pay for this? How did we pay for this?
Laserfish was actually paid from surplus money within the budget of the IT department.
Okay, so this, what about this whole system, the Civic Ready? Did we?
Same,
Same? Oh,
yeah.
sure. That's great.
Was that from some of the ARPA money? No?
No.
Okay.
No, not those.
I assume we'll deprecate Code Red,
Yes,
and is Civic Ready cheaper?
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
yeah. It's cheaper, and then we think it's more options, and
The geotag stuff seems especially promising.
it's really, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So is Light and Water deprecating Code Red too, or someone's gonna
Light
have to
and
sign
water
up
is
twice?
light and water, they
No, I'm
handle it
just,
on their own.
I'm worried, if people think they signed up for one thing and they didn't get the notices for the other because there's two separate systems, right? Anything we can do to make it easier for people to get notifications between the two separate systems, we should do.
We,
We can have that conversation.
yeah, we could talk to them and let them know what we have available and what we're doing. See if they're interested in joining us.
Is the subscription based upon, so if we
Number.
enrolled light, water, and sewer in, it would be the same price?
Right, yeah.
It's the same number of residents?
That's like we were all using under Code Red
Right.
with light and water, and we were all piggybacking together.
All set. All right. Well, we will move on to public input. If there's anyone who wishes to speak, you could step up to the podium. No? Thank you. In that case, we'll move on to members' updates. Let's start with Ms.
Mr. Chair.
Napoli.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
On the TA update, there's a number of things that belong to our DPW Director, Steve Yonley, and I was just to not keep him here all night, if we
Yes.
could, maybe after members' updates.
Yes.
If we could jump to
100%.
Steve and keep him, get him out.
Let's do
Thanks,
members'
Steve.
updates, and then we'll absolutely go to that.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Napoli, would you like to start with members' update?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I don't have anything this evening.
Mr. Wilson?
I've been on vacation for 3 weeks. I'm a grandfather. So first-time
Congratulations.
grandfather. Of a baby boy, Theodore. So that's all really I have, that's enough.
Okay.
Congratulations to Gary.
Yes.
Mr.
And Jody
DeCoste.
and the whole Wilson family.
Do you have anything, Mr. DeCoste?
No, that's it.
Mr. Rombacher?
Yeah, I have a few things. I went to the Meeting House event on Saturday. It was very well attended, thanks to the police for the details, and it was a nice event, and the building's gorgeous inside. So, so that's one. I also was helping build the boardwalk over on Balsam Lane, and Jim O'Neill and Rick Finley and those folks do yeoman's work around town, and I think we really should figure out a way of recognizing them at some point too. Amy Green and other people were there as well. Gary, I think, went separately, but I toured Lyle Webster's property over
Yes.
on Walkley, who's interested in potentially a conservation restriction, so we need to think about that going forward, what we would like to do. He's also talked to Sudbury Valley trustees and getting others involved, so.
I believe he might be the one who was also looking at transfer of development rights.
He was.
Okay.
Didn't look
But,
like that was gonna happen though, so.
But I don't know that that's, I don't know that the planning board's moving that forward.
It's
so.
been kind of shelved since 550 King Street came online.
And the other is, we talked about this before, but we still need to work on getting the open space and rec plan up to date before next November when it expires. So whatever we have to do to reinstate that committee and get light a fire under people to get it moving, we need to start doing before the plan expires and we're no longer eligible for grants.
Should we perhaps have that on an agenda after town meeting?
We could probably put it on an agenda in October. I
Okay.
think could be a quick discussion initially.
Okay.
That's all I have.
The only thing I have was that you reminded me that I've seen several posts on Littleton Trails, like lauding the Balsam Harwood Loop, which is a great it's really wonderful that we got access to that, so.
We were building 112 feet of boardwalk, so.
Thank you, LCT.
And I will say that I wasn't building most of it. They were doing a lot of the work.
You only built like 98 feet of it?
They had everything ready. All you had to do was screw the pieces down.
Perfect, thank you. So shall we skip to item 7, the town administrator update with all of DPW's multifaceted. Welcome.
Thank you for taking me out of order. I know probably got half the meeting here in my folder.
I hope you drank lots of water, Steve.
No, I got it right next to me. First up, for the record, Stephen Young, Director of Public Works. First up is just kind of an FYI to the board and to the community that we do have snowplow contractor applications out on the street. We've sent them out to contractors from last year. We've already actually gotten a few back. I believe it's posted on the website for anybody interested, looking for any and all contractors. We did, like a lot of communities that I talked to over the last couple of weeks, we went up on the rate a little bit. Because obviously gasoline and diesel fuel is a lot more expensive than it was last year. So a lot of communities have upped their hourly rate depending on the piece of equipment. Some communities offer, sign-up bonuses, make storm bonuses, that type of thing. Did not choose to do that at this point, but we did go up kind of across the board on the rate just to try to stay competitive with some other communities and also Mass DOT. So, again, just sort of an FYI that's out on the street.
Do you have a sense, is that a substantial portion of the snow removal budget? Is it going to impact things, and are you going to come to us sooner than you usually do for extra money?
I guess we'll see what the Farmer's Almanac says.
Fair enough. Okay.
Second on the list is an extension to the solid waste contract. Per the contract with Waste Management, we can extend up to 3 years. We asked for pricing to look out over that 3 years. On the screen here is kind of a breakout sheet. And sort of in the discussion between Anthony, myself, and Ashley Pennard, who is now upstairs in Anthony's office, where she did come from Public Works. She has a little bit of history with this. She got kind of looking a little bit at kind of the dumpsters also at like police station, fire station, here at Town Hall. Those 3 locations had contracts with Waste Management as well, but all separate. So the community that I came from, everything was all inclusive. Granted, Chelmsford's curbside pickup, but here, our contracts with Waste Management for our solid waste and recycling disposal from the transfer station. And then we also have dumpsters at facilities through Waste Management, but all separate. So looking at it and putting them all together on this sheet here, you see kind of, we save basically, when you look at the 3-year column, basically $7,200 a year, so it's, equates to, a little over 22 grand over the life of the 3-year contract. Plus, as far as our solid waste disposal, allows me kind of almost a fixed number that I can budget for looking out over 3 years for disposal. So we felt this was the way to go, kind of consolidate it. Maybe going forward, next contract, maybe, and when you extend it out for the 3 years, Waste Management knows they get you locked in for 3 years, you're gonna get a better price. So to us, it made perfect sense. So we think this was definitely the way to go, and look for the board's approval on that.
So in your letter, in previous years, Waste Management was the only bidder?
So
Is that the case this year as well?
they were the only qualified bidder. We have the option to extend, so we did not go back out
Okay.
to bid.
Thank you.
In the last year, when it went out to bid, from what Ashley told me, there were 2 bidders. One bidder didn't meet all the qualifications because they didn't have the facilities within the radius for us to transport the recycling. Waste Management meets all that criteria.
Comments from the board about this?
From a while back when I was on the school committee, I kept asking the question, why aren't we fully consolidated with even the school's waste, and it's just another opportunity for that next contract. I think that conversation needs to be had with you and Steve, Mark, and
Yep.
see if we can, not that we're gonna save a whole bunch more money, but it's just, it's that much easier on the finance department and accounts payable, and I think that we need to look at more and more opportunities to do that, so.
No, absolutely.
Hats off for doing it, Steve, thanks.
So that was one of my other questions. So this, were you originally, was this all part of your budget originally, or was this all broken up, town hall, police, with Waste Management had their own contracts, or was it always part of your budget?
Facilities.
No, it was not.
So now it will be, now it's all going to be. or
Still
not?
facilities.
It will be, okay.
And Steve's portion will be broken out separately on the bill, so.
Transfer station is broken out separately,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
any building waste
Got
is
it.
facilities.
Yes, when they
Correct.
pay the bill, they'll just have 2 GL codes that they're
Yep.
coding the bill off to.
Thank you for looking into that. Do you have any comments?
No.
Okay, I guess we're ready for a
Great
motion.
work by
Oh,
Ashley, Ashley Pinard.
Yeah,
Great.
Thank you, thank you, Ashley.
I'm just the guy at the stand. Ashley
She
was
did
the one who
tremendous
did all the
amount of work.
homework.
We know.
Yeah, you know me too well, sir.
Move the select board vote to authorize the town administrator to sign and execute Amendment 1 for solid waste disposal with Waste Management of Massachusetts Incorporated.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all.
Kind of under duress there.
Yeah,
You didn't give us the option.
well, it was unanimous.
He said please.
All right, Lazaro paving.
Yeah, next is a bid we opened last week, funded through the extra Chapter 90 money, the winter recovery funding. We opened this bid for work on the Shoba Road, the stretch between Newtown Road up to the Orchard Nagog Hill intersection, as well as kind of a, I don't want to call it a Band-Aid, but that's pretty much what it is, a Band-Aid on Foster Street from Tehadawon to Harwood, and then a little bit from Harwood up past the assisted living facility. The name escapes me at this point.
Life
Life Cam.
Basically just putting roughly an inch to inch and a half over the road. We know that road's pretty rough. There's a much larger project, scheduled water main replacement and stuff on that end, which is probably a few years away. I've experienced doing this type of thing. It'll buy us enough time. Obviously, the extra Chapter 90 money we felt was a decent opportunity to get that done. So I don't have 2 or 3 guys patching that road 3 days a week, all winter long, kind of a waste of time, manpower, and money. So, and then we get that stretch into Shoba Road through the swamp and up the hill. Get that milled and overlaid as well, all scheduled, hopefully if approved tonight, to be done prior to winter.
How much did the Chapter 9 cover?
So the extra winter recovery money was a little over 220,000. So I have
You basically.
5,000 and change out of roadway repairs
Wow.
to cover the remainder.
Any comments?
I'll just comment on Russell Street. It looked messy in the beginning, but the finished product looks good. The Russell Street stretch that you
Oh,
mentioned,
that's a Cape Seal, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And there's no sidewalk component to this yet? That'll be the...
Not at this point, no. That, the Foster Street stretch, it's still in kind of a little more than a concept level design at this point, but
Okay.
That's still the ultimate plan.
Was Neshoba done relatively recently? I thought that was,
The other end,
okay,
the NAGOG to, out to 119, that
Great
was
road,
done.
yeah.
okay.
Okay. A motion, please, Mr. Clerk.
Move that the select board vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for resurfacing and related work in various locations with Lazaro Paving in the amount of $225,380.
Second?
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I'm sorry.
It's 224,
I
correct?
think actually it's 225, that was a typo,
Okay.
so
Okay.
Thank you.
225 is the right number, so
Sorry.
good, you're
That's
both
right.
right, but
220,
Chuck's more right.
so just to be clear,
Chuck's more right.
225, 380.
Cut that, right?
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you.
If we just have Mark, just earmark the tape right there where you said the Chuck's more right.
I love you all, so,
Teague and Bond, landfill monitoring.
Yeah, thank you again. Next on the list is this fiscal year's landfill monitoring from Ty and Bond. This number was moved into the regular operating budget at $130,000. Obviously, in preparation for last year's budget, Chris must have had the, basically what it was gonna cost, because the quote is 129 and change. So that is monitoring the quarterly reports, annual report for the compliance with Mass DEP for the landfill monitoring.
Is this in perpetuity, the monitoring? Do you know? How long do we have to monitor the landfill?
Until they tell you, honestly.
Just
It's
curious.
Mass DEP, yes.
Yeah, probably
It's
forever. Okay, fair
basically
enough.
an annual
Yeah, okay,
procedure.
got it,
Flu moves on, I guess.
I guess. Okay, comments or questions? No? Mr. Clerk?
Move that the select board vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for landfill post-closure monitoring and compliance with Ty and Bond in the amount of $129,700.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you.
Hmm?
And are we, Howard Stein Hudson, is that you as well?
Yep, that's the next one. This is an update, I think I spoke of it maybe at the goals and then maybe at something else, or maybe at the Shaker Lane discussion from a few months ago. About time to update the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan. The plan here for town was done in 2016. Here we are, 2022, approaching 2023. I think there were 16 or 17 projects on the prioritization plan. Half of them have been completed. We can reprioritize some of the remainders on there, add in new ones as, maybe the flavor of the community has changed a little bit, between development or whatever else. This is the company I worked with in Chelmsford. It was quite a process. Interactive web maps. I think they might have even in the package included the map of Chelmsford. You can go in onto the map, pick there should be a crosswalk here. There should be, sidewalk connection here. There's a gap in sidewalks. We need sidewalks, bike lanes, all that stuff. Part of this is there'll be public input session, as well as presentation to the board, a draft report, a lot of consultation with myself and staff over needs. Again, the website. Again, updating this plan just, helps us the program awards up to $400,000 in construction grants. So updating the plan, I know we had talked about Shaker Lane that night here, kind of maybe coming to the top of the list or close to the top of the list for funding. So a plan update, well, right now it's like last on the list in the original plan, prime opportunity here. Plus it kind of will be running side by side with bicycle and pedestrian master plan. So, it seems like pretty good timing. So again, I ask for the board's approval.
There are a number of categories, bicycle and pedestrian utility maps, comfort maps, pedestrian network maps.
Yep.
Do you know if the original study had the same categories of prioritization as this?
It doesn't seem like it did,
Okay.
to be perfectly honest.
Do you believe that there's more emphasis on the bicycle and pedestrian in this one than there
Well,
was
I
before?
think, and not to say that the original plan didn't take all that into consideration. I think even in the, 6 years or so, maybe, I don't know if that began in 2015 or whatever, I think the flavor of the, you know, the multimodal, if you want to call it that, the pedestrian and the bicycle community has changed. You know, it's grown. So things like, you know, a bike lane and stuff might not have been really taken into account at that time. I know that some of the original stuff here was like, they did the sidewalk on Russell Street, you get the signs, you got the sharrows in the street that indicate, you know, bikes can use full lane, that type of thing. But as that has grown, I know the bicycle community here, I lived here for a long time, you know, they ride all around town, so.
Just more of an emphasis on it
Yep.
now than there used to be.
I think a lot of the focus was sidewalks and safe ways to school and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And it definitely has shifted over the last
Yep.
few
Yeah,
years.
that's good.
As we have focused more attention
Good.
on bikes as well.
Great.
So when does this come back to, in front of us, I guess?
So we go, this is probably, you know, a 3 to 4 month period, I would think, right after the, you know, February maybe-ish, March.
Any other comments?
Are you working with a consultant, or is there a committee working with this consultant? How is the,
I would be the direct point person on this. It's a little bit different than the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. Chelmsford, I had done this prior to the BPAC's master plan, so they almost kind of work together, but master plan doesn't allow you really to directly apply for grants, as where this is directly tied to a state-funded program. So, in order to apply for those grants, you need this plan.
right, I fully agree we need this plan. I was just wondering if we needed more people involved than just you,
Oh, no,
to
Yep.
interact with the consultant.
yep, no, again, there'll be the interactive map. There were links that you could just submit information. We did a big public session, we'll have, you know, a room like this, we'll have maps all over the place, people can draw all over them. You know, it was a good process that I went through with these folks.
Okay.
Great.
That's awesome.
All set? Okay.
Move that the select board vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for transportation planning and traffic engineering services to update Littleton's complete streets prioritization plan with Howard Stein Hudson in the amount of $39,600.
Second.
A bargain. Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you very much. I believe, is that, oh no, Green International.
I got
Okay,
one more. The last one on the list for tonight is a proposal to continue the Russell Street project that was started a few years ago by former Director Stoddard. And I believe he did it for the same reasons. I want to bring it back forward to kind of line with the upcoming sewer construction. This project would be from King Street to basically the 495 bridge, sidewalk reconstruction, some drainage improvements, and then obviously roadway resurfacing. With this, originally, I believe, $87,580 has been tied up in this project. To date, we've been billed $64,000, so there's still a little bit in the kitty on this. I'm looking with this amendment to continue this project for an additional $55,000. That'll give me right-of-way plans, because there will have to be some easement takings. Currently, the roadway is outside of the right-of-way in a few places, so we can correct all those issues as well as bring in the sidewalk up to current standard. So again, I just ask for the board's approval on this to keep this project moving.
Comments, questions?
I think it's good foresight. And
Yep.
like you said, aligning it with the sewer and water replacement.
Okay, let's go for a motion.
Move the select board vote to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for additional engineering services in support of Russell Street roadway reconstruction project with Green International Incorporated in the amount of $55,274.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? No? No, it wasn't me. 5-0. Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very
Good.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
I propose we skip 7G and come back to it. In which case, we are back to 5, special town meeting, finalized warrant and direct posting.
So, I just want to thank Ryan for really picking up the ball last week and preparing for this meeting and finalizing the warrant for tonight. But we'll run through those rather quickly. If anybody has any questions, certainly stop us. Here's the list. Go ahead.
Yep, we're back at it, right? So just to remind everybody, so we've got two documents we're looking to take care of. First is the basic warrant document that gets posted tomorrow. So that gets posted in all churches and public buildings. And then we have the separate votes that are on the motions that we have in our town meeting warrant document. That plan is to go to the printer on Wednesday. So we'll have a few days to incorporate the updates that the board provides us with tonight, and puts your votes into and your motions into the document. So as Gary had said, there may be a few other updates where we present those updated motions at town meeting. It's a normal thing in terms of how we have to do things. I know also, too, that the Finance Committee, I believe in Article 9, wanted to take some extra time to vote on, so that motion will be forthcoming. So what you have is the goal is to have a document that will go out to residents that'll be 99% complete, but with a few other things that we know we're going to have to come back at. So
One of the things too, Ryan, if I may, just FinCom will be providing their recommendations later, so that'll be included in that handout that Gary was talking about. So at some point, if you felt that you didn't want to provide a recommendation tonight, there's still an opportunity where we can add that to the handout.
Okay, good. So again, just to remind you the article of what we're looking to do tonight, which is to look to order the articles. We have proposed an order for you for the 16 articles. You are by no means bound by that, but that is an option for the select board if anyone has any strong feelings about that. We would move to vote to close the special town meeting warrant and approve and sign the special town meeting warrant. Well, not actually the special town meeting warrant, but the actual warrant document for posting, which will happen tomorrow. And we always try to put this in subject to approval as to form by town council, such that if we see anything like spelling mistakes or any other adjustments that that are non-substantive, that we still have the chance to do that, and with your support. So don't want to be putting things out if there's any spelling errors. So, and then of course the other part of this would be to adopt article recommendations for special town meeting. That's that. So with that, we would go, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, we can go right into the first article, which is paying bills of prior years. We only have 2 bills of prior years that are coming before the special town meeting, both of whom which are related to the Nagog Orchard, with the transition there from the prior owner to the town taking ownership over this. We have a few, we have an electricity bill and a water bill that we're asking to pay. The electricity bill is in the amount of $514.03, and the water bill is in the amount of $379.38. So you probably remember too, one of the last updates we provided, there's some other water and electricity bills that are based on the current year, but the board authorized us to pay those bills, and we're currently in the process of doing that. We can't pay the FY22 bills, however, until we receive authorization from town meeting. And I would note that this is also a majority 9/10 vote required here for this. So.
And just to know, Mr. Chair, the town moderator came in, we had passed this information on to him, so he's had an opportunity, and I don't know, Tim has any comments at some point?
Very good. Any comments on number 1? No? Okay. Do we want to move them one at a time? Is that?
I think it's really it's the preference of the board. It might be easier to do that. That's the way we've set it up, just to kind of break them up in small bites.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Move the select board vote to recommend Article 1 of the special town meeting warrant.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, 5-0.
Let me just
Yeah.
I mean, if we're approving them motion by motion with article number by article number, I think we might want to agree to the numbering.
Oh, yes, that's
Of the
true,
articles
true, yeah, I did.
Well, I have no problem with the
Good
numbering.
good point, yes.
Tried to be consistent with other previous.
Everything looks fine, but I just
Yeah.
didn't know if anybody had, they had something that they said, this should go
Higher.
first or lower or whatever.
No?
I think that order's fine,
It's okay? All
All
right.
right.
personally.
We'll continue.
Okay, all right, okay. So, this is Article 2, this is to amend the FY '23 operating budget. Most of these discussions we had previously with the board about these items. First is the additional money that needed to run the election in the fall 2022. This is police overtime mainly. This is another unfunded mandate from the state, so, which we've got plenty of them. And so that number nets out to $10,605. The next piece is the update that you had received earlier tonight. I just wanted to make sure the number that I have here at $46,260 is the right figure there. So I think that is what we believe to be the net cost of changing over to the new classification and compensation plan that you saw earlier earlier this evening that was presented. And that's the impact there. Got a couple bills here for additional electricity usage and natural gas usage. Part of this is as it relates to bringing on the library and kind of getting a better understanding of what those costs are going to be. This reflects some of the trends that we've seen so far to date, and we wanted to get ahead of that. So, so that's what that would be. We are also proposing, the board has discussed this extensively, to hire a new facilities director. That would be in the amount of $66,000. And finally is a request from a library director to add additional hours to make it so that the assistant library director, which position I believe is currently vacant or almost, it's about to be vacant, but to get it up to 40 hours.
Right, Helen's retiring, so she was only 30 hours, I believe. So we'd be looking to go full-time, 40, under 40, 37 and a half, whatever that might be. So that would bring that to a full-time position.
And then we have gotten 2 letters from 2 town
Yeah.
boards to discuss the assistant town planner position. So I know that I see some members from the planning board here and the Affordable Housing Trust, and I would like to hear from them about this, about their desires. If someone would like to come to speak to that,
If I may start off.
you may.
Ed Mullen, Littleton Building Commissioner. So I was before you guys before, and I withdrew our request for the assistant town planner. We had a lengthy discussion on the finances of the town and trying to be a good steward and a good department head, and at the advice of our town administrator, I withdrew. Since then, I've heard from both the Affordable Housing Trust, some members, and some members of the planning board. At this time, I'd like to resubmit my request for the assistant to the town planner.
Thank you. If I could impose on the planning board and the Affordable Housing Trust to speak.
Hello, hello, Select Board members. Anna Houston, Planning Board, 55 Jennifer Street. So thank you so much for hearing this particular item on this evening's agenda. So Marin Toohill, our town planner, as you know, has been with the town for many years and has grown with the town and grown in terms of her position, grown in terms of the needs of the town over many, many years, right? However, the capacity to be able to stay with that growth that we're experiencing just isn't there any longer. She needs the help. And so the primary work, as I understand it, from what the town planner has to do is in 2 big buckets. The first one is in terms of applications. Special permits are a big part of that. And so in past years, as she said to me, there might be a half dozen special permits, and in the last 9 months alone, there have been 13 special permits. Each of those requires an immense amount of time, coordination. The documentation that has to be provided is significant. So that's a huge amount of work for 13 special permits just in the last 9 months that are completed. That doesn't even take into account the remaining work that still has to be done for King Street Common, for what's happening with other applicants that might be coming forward, like Northern Bank. The second significant bucket, if you will, is all of the special projects. So some of those have been discussed tonight by Stephen. Some of them have been brought up in other parts of this meeting. They include the station area plan, the bicycle and pedestrian master plan. The Littleton Affordable Housing Trust is here this evening with Bartlett and Susan, as well as some of our other members of the select board, because there is an action plan that we would like to be able to get done for the Affordable Housing Trust, and we can't even move off the dime because we don't have the staff to be able to do that. But it's a very important part of our housing component here in town. And then from that, we have some additional projects. We have the Durkee Farmhouse, we have 119 Tehadawon Road. There are so many other different things that are an offshoot of the Affordable Housing Trust, and Marin supports all of that. We have the open space plan. We have the hazard mitigation plan. We have the housing production plan. And then on top of that, we have bylaws that need to be written, right? So back in January, she helped us amend the stormwater regulations, and that passed in Springtown meeting. We are looking at having an A&R affordable housing bylaw passed at Fall Town meeting, which is on your agenda later tonight. And then possibly even another bylaw regarding something going on at 410 Great Road. Then, on top of that, we have other projects that have been sort of on her burner. Transfer development rights, the community one-stop for growth application, the Neshoba Regional Greenways, and if for any reason our board has to go through any litigation, she also has to assist with that. So just in terms of naming all of these things, think about it. If you were the one person who had to do this job, you not only have to do the work, you then also have to coordinate it with all of the other departments and with the various select boards. So that's a lot of work. And it's incumbent upon all of us who are part of the select board, planning board, affordable housing trust, to make sure that the work that the town needs is going to get done and get done well. And so I'm sure there's even more work, Maureen, that I didn't mention, but those are the two big ones. So being able to bring on an assistant town planner was the #1 goal when the land use department was created. So that just shows you the importance of being able to do this. In your package, you have unanimous support letters from the planning board and the Affordable Housing Trust. And so I thank you for listening and for hopefully supporting this position at Fall Town meeting. And if there are others who would like to speak as well.
Thank you.
Sorry, Michelle Vibert, HR Director. I do want to say that as part of that process, if you do approve the funding, there is a second piece of the process, which would be development of a job description and grading of the job description, because it is not currently on the new compensation table that you just saw.
Thank you. All right. I do want to hear from the board on this. You want to start, Mr. Wilson?
I was just trying the grade. That was my question. I was actually asking Cindy. That is a big piece to this, obviously. Do we have a guess of where this will end up on the new compensation grid?
As of right now, I don't have a guess with the development of the new grid. However, I believe that we do have a draft job description. It just hasn't been, that was when the land use department was originally implemented from town meeting, but that job description never made it to the Personnel Advisory Committee or to the Select Board. So as part of this process, I mean, we could do it at your next meeting if the PAC could get together.
And what's the, those that know the business, the salary range you think we would be able to attract somebody? I guess that would probably be the better way to ask this question.
Trying to place the old grid onto the new grid in my mind here.
Yeah, just think, I guess, the salary, really, the market
so,
for this type of an assistant town planner.
Yeah, so 50 to 70, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Assistant town planner. 45, 65 is what we're looking at as a full-time assistant town planner.
I think I'll speak. I think that this town is about to undergo a period of almost unprecedented growth with 550 King Street, with the MBTA development, which is going to be partially satisfied by 550 King Street, but not entirely, with Northern Bank and Trust. And I'm worried that we're basically shortchanging the town by not, holding the developers responsible for all of the things that they promised to do, and to make sure that they're adhering to all the bylaws. And I think that's a big problem. But I do want to hear what everyone else has to say, obviously.
So I think, well, a couple things. One, if Maren got hit by a bus tomorrow, we're in pretty bad shape.
If she won the lottery.
Yes, that too.
It's a better scenario.
Take your pick.
What's she ever do to you?
She can fund the position.
Yeah, so I think we need to get her help. I think just the list of the plans that need to be developed in the next year is overwhelming, in addition to the new development coming along. So I do think, if I remember correctly from what was stated before, the position was slightly higher than that. I think it was like 65 to 80 range.
80-ish, yeah.
I thought it was around the 80 range, but I'm not 100% positive on that. That's the number that sticks in my head.
Ms. Napoli, would you like to speak to
Thank you,
it?
Mr. Chair. So I want to just thank Anna Houston for that summary she put together. I think that was very comprehensive and spot on with what we know. Maren has been facing what's going on in Littleton. Certainly, it's a very important position. It's a position that was approved by the voters of a town meeting a year and a half ago. Succession planning, as Mark mentioned, is very important. We've always talked about that. I just see absolutely no reason why we shouldn't support this position and give Maren the support she needs, and for all the reasons that were already spoken this evening. So I'm 100% in favor of making this work.
Okay. Mr. Ghost?
Sure. I agree with everything that's been stated. I do put a lot of faith and trust in our finance director, in our town administrator and assistant town administrator. Their recommendation to us was, and agreed with it at the last meeting, to table this for now, and then take a look at, definitely funding it in the next cycle, but based upon the input, where they have all the information, they have all the data, they know what all of our needs and wants are. We all know what Maren does, and we all love her for it. But the number one goal for land use was actually facilities director, who was voted at town meeting 4 or 5 years ago. So, we need to make progress every year, and I think by hiring the facilities director this year, we're doing that and transitioning that person into the land use department, and then working towards this position. I wish we could do everything. I think, Gary, you've been famous for saying that. I wish we could just fund everything and go along nicely, but we can't do everything, so we do have to make some tough decisions and pick and choose. And although there are a number of special permits and projects, I think Ed even stepped up and said he'd pitch in and he'd help out, and I think if we don't fund it, Ed's not going to change his tune on that. He's going to continue to be the type of employee that he is. But I'm in support of what the town administrator and finance director offered us as what their recommendation was when they proposed it to us at the last meeting.
Go ahead, Mr. Sully. I want to hear from you, and also I probably want to hear from Alicia.
So I think Michelle pretty much laid out that there's still the amount of work to be done with the position and grading and all that. So it's something that we still could look at even this year if it's later in the year, and maybe look at a reserve fund transfer to carry that delta. So by us at this time, Alicia and I not recommending that, we're looking at the financial, economic downturn that the country's facing, right? That was our biggest concern, and I outlined that at the last meeting. It's just right now, we would just caution moving slowly on it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have to happen this year. If we can still work towards ultimately what that plan was, because we all are on the same page that we all believe that that position is needed. It allows us to still work towards Michelle, with the land use department to bring that position in. So just by not doing town meeting, it still can be done, because it's still gonna take some time to get this going.
Okay. Mr. Montanari?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been on the board as long as Marin's been on the board, over 30 years. We've seen the town go from a town that had cows and fields and farms to what we see now. We've seen development all over the place. Marin has we have 3 meetings this week that Marin's in charge of. We have the Affordable Housing Trust all the time. Marin's job is impossible at best, and she needs help to do it, and it shouldn't be about money, whether we can. And I understand Anthony's position, maybe the economy is going a little soft and stuff like that, but we have 550 King Street coming down the pike, and that's gonna involve a lot of work. We're probably gonna have double planning board meetings just to accommodate Mr. Lapoli and what his intentions are out there. Mara needs the help. The planning board needs the help. She handles the planning board, the Housing Affordable Trust, everything Anna told you all about. She's been doing it for 30 years, and it shouldn't be about money. It should be about giving her a break. She's put her time in. She barely takes a vacation. She's there every day. She's there at 7 o'clock at night all day long. If we have a meeting, she doesn't go home. She doesn't, she needs the help. And if it's money, take my salary. Give her what I get, okay? If you guys need that, if it comes down to that, I'm willing to give her my salary. No, but seriously, you have no idea. I deal with Marin on a day-to-day basis, and she's a professional. She's a consummate. She thinks about the town of Littleton all the time. It's not about just her. It's about the fact that she's burnt out. She can't handle everything that comes before us. And she does the best she can, and the planning board needs help. We're going to be busy. And we do bring in a fair amount of money, so it shouldn't be about money. We have a lot of projects ahead of us, and you guys can find a couple of $1,000 somewhere to fund this for us. A couple of thousand. See, we'll have a cake, we'll have a bake sale. Anyway, I really think Mark could use the help, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
So I guess, I think Mark actually hit on it. It's not necessarily about the money. This is a position that needs to happen. Regardless of whether we approve this tonight or not, we should move forward with creating the job position and getting it up. I would prefer, and actually I would suggest that we include this funding in this capital budget request for this coming fiscal year. Operating budget. I believe that is a statement of, our support. I believe that the 550 King Street is going to be hundreds of millions of dollars of development over the next 7 to 10 years, which needs managing, and I think that's very important. Nevertheless, so regardless of what we vote tonight, I want to make sure that we move forward as quickly as possible with creating this position.
So that was gonna be my next point, is we don't have a number to go on right now, so we can't go to the voters and say, hey, it's gonna be ish. We need to tighten that up. So I think if we make a commitment that this is a position that we're going to work on, get the PD written for, if we have to do a balance fund transfer, so be it. I don't think there's anyone up here that doesn't think that Mara needs the help. I think we all are committed to that, just that when we look at the budget, as much as it's not about the money, it is about the money, because we have to find the money, we have to make it happen, and we will. But I'd rather make it happen with something that the taxpayers can support. Mm-hmm. They know what the cost is going to be, because right now we've got some gray areas. If we're going to vote on this tonight and approve it, it can change, mm-hmm. But I'd rather make the commitment to make it happen outside of town meeting.
Okay. Ms. Napoli, what do you think about that?
I'd rather, I appreciate all the comments. I would rather make the commitment to make it happen now, personally. But, so as we as a board, if we want to decide tonight that we're going to make the commitment to make it happen, how are we gonna solidify that and make sure that we're not looking back on this and there's any disagreement about what was agreed upon tonight? If we don't put it in this operating budget,
If it's not funded, you mean?
if it's not funded now and we go through the process, I just want to make sure that it happens sooner rather than later. I don't want to be sitting here in the spring and having us still have this conversation. I think it needs to happen now. The voters approved the land use department a year and a half ago. And I know that we've had the facilities director kicked down the road many years, but that was not a good thing. At the end of the day, there was a lot of, that was penny wise, pound foolish, in my opinion. So I just feel that this just needs to happen now, and we just need to figure out how to do it. So whatever is the course going forward, that's fine, but like I said, the voters approved this a year and a half ago. We know what's going on in Littleton, and it's not all about 550 King Street, it's about everything else that we're trying to accomplish in between, Northern Bank and all of the reports that we need to do, the Affordable Housing Trust, as Ms. Houston mentioned, it's just a lot of things. So it's fine if the board doesn't want to agree to amend this evening to include funding for this position, but we need to figure out what we're going to do from this day forward, and within what time frame. I would like to see a time frame attached to that, because I don't want to be sitting here 6 months from now and having it still out there floundering.
We have, just this year alone, we've hired an off-cycle police officer, a firefighter, so we have the capability of doing it. We've done it in the past.
But those were just, sorry to interrupt you, but those were kind of within the budget. This is asking for a new position outside of, that we're going to do a transfer outside of the budget. It would be kind of, I'd much rather we approve it tonight, and then even if we said, we'll approve it tonight, but don't hire someone until April, right? I would be much happier with that than, let's say, we're going to approve it in April from a reserve fund transfer, because then everyone had the chance at the town meeting to vote on this. If we do it as a reserve fund transfer in April on our own, it was our decision as opposed to the town's decision.
That's a good point.
That's a good point, Mark. Yeah, that's a good point. And I like that. We talked about the hybrid,
Yeah.
do it, but don't do it right now.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a reality. In all reality, if we did approve this tonight, by the time everything gets tightened up, when we figure out what the PD is, when we figure out what the salary range is, and we get it posted, and we get somebody in.
We're not going to spend the money for quite a while,
Yeah,
perhaps.
so maybe
Okay.
I could probably, I'd be more comfortable with going around, getting behind it, structured that way.
Okay. Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, coming from the finance committee, I really don't like off-cycle hirings, unless it's an emergency. But the world's changing, and COVID changed a lot of what we have to do. And I left in August, our last meeting I was at, and I thought we were going to have a facilities director, an assistant town planner, and a firefighter. And I watched the meeting, but I wasn't here, and we're down to the facilities director, and I don't think, I thought there was enough case as well for a firefighter off-cycle right now. I know there was a lot of talk, and I know I'm going into another position, but it matters, because I think we kind of just are looking at a safer grant, potentially, that's going to come next summer, maybe, when the need is here regardless. To wait on something like that, when we know that there's a pretty close to a critical need, and that there are many that would stand at that podium and say it is a critical need as well, that if we're going to start this off-cycle hirings, then we need to jump in with both feet and embrace it, and just, there's an identified two needs. I can put that firefighter need right next to the assistant town planner and say we need them both right now. Let's see what the finance team can do to create that in the budget, and to see what's not going to be funded and how it's going to affect capital, if we really want to see what this is going to do. But I didn't think, there was plenty of discussion about the fire department, But I don't think, it was kind of just pushed away because we know we have this potential SAFER grant. When that pushes any hiring out a year plus, 18 months before we can get a firefighter. So that's not necessarily helping our department with its current needs. So I want to bring that back up because I wasn't here last meeting to talk about, and I'd love to hear some comments on that. But also, I really would like to see, like I said, how this affects our capital and what's not going to be funded either way. And I know we're probably not going to get that tonight, which means we're making a decision on the fly with an estimate. So it's a matter of what's that number due at, let's, jump it up, the 75,000, let's say 80,000. And what are we losing? And I don't know if Alicia or Anthony, you can speak to that. But I would like to hear more comments on the fire side, because I don't know where that, all of a sudden that just became, we need it. The overtime is crazy. Everybody's stressed out to, oh, we're just going to give the fire prevention position, so to speak, that we had already promised a year ago. We need a firefighter. So anyway, please.
Good evening again, Honorable Select Board. So what we do is we have a fiscal policy reserve we set aside because we know things are going to come up during special town meeting. But we also know, well, I know, that permits are on the decline, motor vehicle excise is on the decline, and those are two of my biggest local receipts. So even though we have a fiscal policy reserve, I don't want to spend the whole thing, because if something goes one way or another, and I need padding because the revenues are down, I've lost that. So it's a potential deficit, which I don't want to put us in. If we were to fund two positions, I can tell you right now, I'd be in a deficit position.
Do you mean two facilities, town planner?
No,
and-
I'm saying the town planner and a firefighter.
So,
Could not.
Okay.
Well, that was pretty definitive,
No,
wasn't it?
and that's
Yeah,
what
so that's,
Yeah, no, I mean-
it's a critical need versus need, versus want, right?
Yeah, I
So we're gonna have to do some
like I said,
illustrating.
you could put several people at the podium and they could create the critical need for both positions. So
Agreed.
I get that that's what we need to look at. But
Well,
if there was a way to do them both right now, I would, because it's been
I
identified.
don't disagree with you.
Coming out of the pandemic and everything that's happening in the town with building, how our town's got an enormous amount of commercial and potential in the common and other places. I get the assistant planner is going to be, hit the ground running.
But we can't fund things based on potential or speculation. I mean,
Yeah, but
So
It's-
through the chair, the town administrator and I met on this, and we absolutely agree, we see the needs there. It's just the inability to fund everything. We'd love to fund everything. We just can't fund everything. So I did like the suggestion about April, because at least that lessens the impact to 3 months versus paying out.
Yeah.
And it allows FinCom and everyone else to try to figure it out.
Correct.
But you could say the same thing about a firefighter.
Yeah.
If you're going to start
Well,
talking April.
I think we are going to be talking about a
I
firefighter
mean,
in April.
I don't.
we did talk about that at
Yeah.
the last meeting.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess I want to hear from
Okay.
Cindy and
So
Mark
let-
on this.
All right, so I appreciate that. I appreciate your input. So, I mean, we can't argue.
No, I know we
Well, we
can't.
were just told, so now let's go to Plan B.
Big one, D.
Right? So let's just figure out a way, let's get the position, just the description together, let's get it graded, figure it out, and then let's plan to fund the position in April. Is that what we're talking about?
Or sooner with a reserve
Or
fund
sooner
transfer.
with a refer-
If we find someone and we get it
If we
filled.
get, yeah, let's do that.
What do you think about that,
If we
Mark?
found lightning in a bottle and Mara knew of somebody that became available,
Right.
we could have that conversation.
Right, and I just want to make sure there's a commitment from this board that we are going to prioritize
There is for
this
me.
position and get this done.
So I would prefer funding it now at town meeting and then just giving them fewer funds so that they can't, tell them, you can don't post the position till February or whatever, right? So that everyone, so we're not doing positions through kind of a back door, that's all, right? We can, you know, that would be my preference, is to say that we're going to hire an assistant town planner, but the planning board or whoever's doing the hiring, land use, is agreeing not to post the position day one. They're gonna post it, you know, 60 days after town meeting, or whatever we tell them is a reasonable number based on what we can afford, right? Because then everyone at town meetings knows that we're funding this new position, and it's not like we're carving it out
They had a
through a
say in it.
special.
And then
Yes.
the next town meeting is just a fait accompli, and it's a referendum on us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if this board feels that the assistant town planner is something that you want to see on that warrant, I would say that it's easier to mid-cycle a firefighter in the spring, in April. It's an emergency need, it's an emergency service that's being provided, over trying to do that with an assistant planner. I would rather see the assistant planner number on there right now, if we're going to vote on any position to be had. But I just, regardless, I just see waiting for next cycle to get to May, to get approved, and now we're talking the fall for getting a firefighter hired and trained, and we're, poof.
Well,
But let's, I mean, I would prefer, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I want to also, I want to talk about the town planner
Sure.
now.
Okay,
So,
had to get that out, because I
I
wasn't here
know,
last
I
week.
understand. Chuck, did you have something else?
yeah, I don't know if it's the third rail or not, but we've been kicking the facilities director down the road for a long time. I mean, is this something that we horse trade with right now? We say, let's, is that, I mean, based upon criticality, I mean, we haven't had a facilities director, and I understand the need, and the town meeting voted for it. But if it's $125,000 a year, 66 to do a half cycle, is that going to help us not go into deficit from a budgetary standpoint to be able to fund an assistant town planner, firefighter?
I think
mean,
one of the.
we need to look at the critical need, and want, and we need to determine.
One of the things about the facilities director, which I think is more compelling, is that I think there's the potential for the facilities director to save us money.
A ton of money.
I think that on the building of the senior center and the operation of the library and town hall, the facilities director is going to end up saving us money, maybe not offsetting the whole salary. And I don't think that the assistant town planner is necessarily going to save us money. So I see, I would prefer not to like horse trade, I guess is what I'm saying.
I opened the statement by saying, I don't know if this is the third rail or not, but I mean, there's only so much money to spend to fill all the needs, and they're all needs. I agree that they're all needs, and, you know, some, like you said, people come up to the podium and can argue which one's more critical in their perspective, but,
Mr. Chair, just wanted to make a comment.
thanks, Alicia.
If you could, so that our home audience can hear you.
Thank you. So I wanted to comment on that. Some of the work that is done from the planning board has to go through town council. But does all of that work have to go through town council? So our attorneys, you know, they're paid several $100s an hour, right? An assistant town planner is not going to be paid that amount of money. So in terms of the kind of work that our town council sometimes has to go through, it could be done through an assistant town planner instead. So I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but I'm sure that is something that could definitely help. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for going down this discussion path, because if it's possible to be able to get a date, this is when your budget starts date, I think that sounds appealing, simply because in this day and age, it takes so long to be able to post the position, go through the interviewing process, and then that other person, being a professional, needs to give plenty of notice at their current position. And right after town meeting, we have the holidays. So being able to put it out there, get it voted upon, and then Marin and HR knows that there's a date that everybody is focused on to get somebody, you know, in the office, I think would be really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. So I suggest that we add this into the operating budget request. We come to some agreement on a date certain to be hired, and we put it to town meeting vote to get them to approve it.
I agree. And I agree with you on the firefighter, Gary. I'd like to see that come up in March, April, whatever, and when we have a better idea on what the budget really looks like, you know, how we're running on everything, and seeing if we get the safer grant or not, and figure out, you know, how we can fund that position later in the cycle, either through overtime like we did before or something else.
Ms. Napoli, I assume you're in favor? Mr.
Yeah,
Wilson?
I am.
In favor of what?
In favor of putting it in this operating budget.
With the caveat that it would be
Yeah.
hired and posted.
Yeah, and
Q2.
we can discuss that. And I think
I guess that's
certainly next year.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
you did say, you know, to hire a date certain. I'd say to post a date certain, because hiring is a
Sure,
whole nother game.
let's say post a date certain.
We could
Thank you.
post and be looking a long term down the road and find the
Understood.
right person, so,
So-
thank you.
Good clarification.
Let's, earliest next year, or even later than that.
I guess the question through the chair, Alicia, so, I mean, you're at a comfort level, I know you and Anthony are at a comfort level right now with this. What does that do now? Is this button right up against what your comfort level is going to be, or you're going to be less comfortable, I know, for sure. If you're going to push this up to about 250. That's, right? Well, it's at half year, so not quite.
Right, and depending on where they're scaling, because the new comp and clause study scale
Yep.
is there now.
That's what I was actually looking at when we were talking about it.
Yeah, that would be a big factor is, I know that just throwing different numbers out here, we got 45, we got 65, we got 80,
Yeah.
where are we?
Yeah.
We don't know. That makes it a little bit more difficult for me, because I need a definitive number so I can compare against what I have to make sure the funding's available.
Well, the number that was presented originally was, I believe, 55 for,
There's a range, right?
that was half. Projected fiscal year '23 budget impact, 55,100. So I would propose that would be the number that we,
Well, that's a grade one, step one, right?
No, I don't think so.
no, I don't think so
I
either.
mean, the facilities director is, if you look at what they're graded out, they're grade 15, and this is projecting them at step 8 or 9, so at 50,000 at their grade.
On the old grid, right?
Yeah, on the
No.
old grid.
Can we ask Maren if she knows like a range that other assistant planners are
Sure.
coming at?
It's one of those we didn't.
I want to put you on the
It
spot.
wasn't.
Maren,
It
but
wasn't in the comp
You've got,
study.
you've got more institutional knowledge than any of us.
Hi, Maureen Toohill, Town Planner. Thank you very much for the discussion. The request was for a salary of $80,000 for the entire year. I'm not sure I have a good feel for it because I haven't been looking for an assistant town planner. But when you add in the other personnel costs, then that's what would bump it up.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's going to fall in the 11, 12 range, grade 11.
For the new grid, okay.
Okay. So that, if we're talking 3 months left in the fiscal year when this position comes on, we're talking
20, 30.
20 or 30,000. That's, so back to you, Alicia.
I would be comfortable with that, if it was from April.
Okay, so if we do that, and we also say we're going to do that for a firefighter, so
Well, your picture is going to be a lot clearer by early spring or late winter,
Well, plus-
usually.
state's funds we're going to get certified in late fall.
Which I'm working on.
No. Right. I want to know.
Yeah, so
Hold your arm behind your
Totally
back.
different conversation.
by town meeting, there's usually a much better picture, and we're hoping that that's a relief, and we're in a better position. Maybe December, January even, we'll have a much better feel for that. But
So you're saying then both, April 1, both a firefighter and an assistant town planner?
Let me float that, yes.
And I would actually ask the land use department whether that's a reasonable expectation April 1 is reasonable?
Yes.
Okay.
If I may,
I would be okay with that, yes.
Please.
I hate to be the voice, but I just want to raise the concern. It's not just this year, it's next year.
Understood.
And
And it's the full
things
year.
are slowing down, so
It's the
just
full
keep
year.
in mind, it's a full year too. And then the comp and class study's a full year. So
Yeah.
when budget requests come in next year and you're not able to fund a lot, if anything, and the school is not gonna come with the 2%, I think we've been blessed over the past 2 years to have that. These are all things that were just, the reason why we made these recommendations is to put the
Conservative,
town into a situation where we don't go the opposite way. This town survived plenty of recessions over the number of years. Why? Because you have great financial policies and you've been good stewards of the town money, and that's what our recommendation was to continue on with that same approach.
Understood.
But I think regardless of that climate that you're speaking to, it sounds like this whole board is committed to these two positions.
Yeah, that's fine.
In May, regardless, we would be sitting here, these would be our two top priorities and
It would
everybody
be
else.
irresponsible of us not
No,
to
and you've done a great job with
raise
this
the
because-
concerns that we have.
We appreciate that.
Your concerns were why I raised the facilities director position.
And I don't
Trading off,
take
it makes,
lightly.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
trade-off
I
as
hate
an
to do
option
that to you,
too.
but
We've done
I-
without the facilities.
That's just it, you know, and I understand
Well,
what you're
we've
saying.
done without an assistant town planner, but that doesn't mean that either of those is a good choice for the town at large.
But this other- yeah.
Fiscal, I understand. I'm advocating for this, I'm advocating for this because I feel like it's at the top of my list, and that's why I'm fighting for it. So, well, I
Fiscal
guess-
responsibilities,
Okay.
top of my list.
So procedurally, do we need a motion to add this back into the operating budget? Do we need to approve the new article with this amended?
Yeah, just add in that dollar amount that you wanted and the specifics, and then we will make the adjustments to the town meeting report and move forward.
Okay.
So do you want a firefighter and assistant town planner?
I would just add the assistant
Let's do
town
the
planner,
assistant town planner.
and then we'll figure out the firefighter
In the off cycle.
in
Yeah.
February.
Okay.
Let's revisit that.
Okay,
That would be my suggestion.
okay.
And just, are we saying April, is that what we're saying?
We said April 1.
April 1, okay.
Let's do it in the second, just so people don't think it's a.
That's still not committing to the fire. I don't understand the difference. What's the difference if what's the difference if we're talking February?
Because I think we just haven't had this in-depth discussion about the firefighter.
So
I'm happy to have the in-depth discussion about the firefighter, but not tonight, maybe?
I kind of disagree with you, because sorry, Mark, if I had to pick, which one of the two positions is more critical right now? I think firefighter is the more critical position.
I think
We figured out a way to do both.
we've added more personnel to the fire department recently.
Not a necessity.
Well,
You're weighing, these are the tough decisions obviously we have to make. I am saying over the next 9 months, we need both these positions. I think we all agree on this.
I agree with you. I'm more comfortable funding the fire position outside of a town meeting than I am this one, because we already hire fire department staff. We're not creating a new position per se, right? Whereas this is something outside of the normal.
I'm going to hold you to that when the winter, when the money comes in, hopefully in the winter.
And I'd also like to see, if the safer grants come in, if the safer grants come in, maybe we're not even talking about funding someone out
Let's
of
see,
the
now you
normal.
just pushed it till
No,
next summer.
well, I thought the safer grants were like 6 months.
Potentially.
Am I wrong? Is it longer?
It depends on the
So-
cycle.
Yeah.
So, so.
okay, again, so are we ready to do a motion? Does someone else want to do a motion?
I have no problem doing a motion.
Yeah, well, including the assistant town planner.
No, I would, even if I didn't agree with it and I was going to vote against it, I could still make the motion.
You still can make the motion, that's correct. You can make any motion you want.
All right, so what do we have up here? Are we done with the rest of the operating budget? Are we ready to make the motion for the?
I believe
Oh, we need a number here. If you're going to put the assistant town planner, we have to put it.
Because Ryan, you were kind of stepping through, bite by bite, right?
Right. So our baseline, based on everything we've been discussing, is $174,226, plus the cost associated with the salary and benefits for an assistant town planner beginning April 1st,
229,
2022.
326, I believe.
What's that?
229, 326, I believe.
So that's, and how much is that putting in for the assistant town?
55, 1?
Is that for the, but I think that was budgeted beginning, please correct me if I'm wrong.
November
but-
2nd, yeah, so you'd be looking at something less than that.
Oh, that's right.
Because
that's
if you start in
that's
April, you're
correct,
only
you're
talking
right,
about
that's
2
right.
months worth of that,
You're talking a quarter.
yeah.
Can we make the motion?
$22,000?
25,
I'd
30?
say 25,000, because that's 75,000.
Yeah.
That gets you,
25, so that
That
would be
gets the last two fiscal- last 2 months.
you
$199,226.
base off 75. Be okay. Even if it's 80, 85, you're still, by then we'll have a clearer picture of finances.
Is that enough?
I think
Is
we're.
the math right?
Yeah, because it's only going to be April, May, June.
Okay.
If we hire somebody
If we
April
hire
1.
someone in
months.
April
Okay,
1, which
okay.
probably won't happen either, but
Right, so it's just a couple months.
And then the following year, now it comes in full cycle, and that's when we start talking, this is gonna affect
$1,000
capital. We
impact.
already know what this is going to do, so we have to really, it's gonna make our capital a lot tougher next year, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's,
But
retirement liability.
it is what it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And then, yeah. Someone
All right.
have a motion?
Yeah, if you want to put it up there, Ryan, I'll let you finish your notes first, because that's more important, because that's how we get it done. All right, I move that the select board vote to recommend Article number 2 for 100 of the
So if we go back
of
and.
the special town meeting report with a total budget impact of the operating budget of $199,226.
Correct.
motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I'm going to go with aye, just for consensus for the board.
5-0. Thank you, Mr. DeCoste. All right, the motion passes. Thank you all very much for the debate. Appreciate it. Thank you all for showing up.
A lot of great input, folks. It's, some of these decisions are tough to make, and appreciate the input.
Let's hope that all the articles don't take that long.
That's the thing. It's the gift that keeps giving.
All right. So, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, we can continue on and
Please.
move on to the Capitol.
Can I make
Yeah.
a request? Got some students here that I'm assuming for the
so.
ag article, I think it's Article
Sure.
16, and
Yeah.
it's a school night. Is there any chance we can?
I'm fine with taking that one next.
I just
Yeah.
Article 16 next? Unless you're here for some other reason. Okay.
Am I making an assumption? Are we making an assumption that you guys are here to talk
We
about
won't
your
be
article?
this hard on you like we just were on that last.
We're going to be harder.
Get to that.
All right. This is,
Okay.
this article again, huh? We need to get Jerry back up here too.
Yep. So-
Can someone, if someone would go
You
to
guys can just all go to the podium, just, the microphone's there, so.
He's not here.
Hello, Select Board. I am the lead petitioner for this article, and I have the bylaw that I just want to pass out to you guys.
John, just state your name and
Oh,
your address.
yes, John Feltus, 699 Great Road.
Yeah, you can pass it out, yeah, sure.
I think we have it here in the packet. No, that's fine.
Yeah. And they have it up on the screen, John.
Thanks, John.
So it's, yeah,
Thank you very much.
Covering all the bases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you please just let us, give us
We-
a
we- Do
brief?
you want to, but they do a presentation they
Oh.
provided, so we could go on to that?
Very
We'd
good.
be
Let's
happy
do
to
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Give us a moment, and we'll bring this up. We're getting there. Hold on a
You have to
minute.
close the PowerPoint first.
Yeah, I think I do, yeah. Okay. We could start.
I would
Hey,
say,
wanna tell the board as we get this up.
I would say while we wait, if I may.
Yes, please.
So as I looked this over, did you get some of this information from other communities perhaps? That's the way I read this,
Yes.
okay?
About all the surrounding towns and also
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, most of the language is adopted from other towns who have passed like nearly identical bylaws.
You tipped me off. When I saw the penalties, I was like, you couldn't have just come up with those.
Yeah, we try to make it as doable as possible for our area
Yeah.
especially, so.
They're consistent with what other towns have passed.
Great.
Have you spoken to the Board of Health about enforcement of
We're
this?
currently in contact.
Yeah, we have reached out to them, we haven't actually met with them.
Okay. I think what I suspect will happen at town meeting when this is presented is that a specific individual in town will stand up and refute some of these claims. One of which is that paper bags are much heavier than plastic bags, and the cost of transporting them is much greater. So I'm curious how you're going to address that.
We're gonna talk about how paper bags aren't the end goal. First, we wanna reduce the toxicity of what it takes to produce plastic bags. And it's just less toxic to produce the paper bags. We wanna replace them with reusable shopping bags. So paper is not the end goal.
Yeah, so that's the main point we want to emphasize is that paper bags isn't the main goal. The end goal is to replace plastic bags with reusable bags. So actually along with this, we're kind of launch some initiatives to get more people with more reusable bags, as that's the real end goal. And also, people often forget the toxicity aspect of plastic bags, where it's not just about what it takes to produce the bag, but also what happens after the lifespan of the bag is over. The plastic bags often end up in the environment, in our oceans, in our waterways, and pollute in that way, even after they're producing, after they're shipped. So the holistic impact of plastic bags is a lot worse than paper bags.
Great. Do any other board members would like to ask questions or comment?
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate all your work and for bringing this back before us, and for the residents of the town to reconsider.
Yeah, music. I don't know how that would work. We could open it up on one of our devices and just read it off to you.
Okay, that would be fine.
Yeah. I have my laptop, so you can also use that.
So now just introduction to John, introduce himself.
Yes.
Maybe this.
Yeah, please. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Dylan Kaplan, 54 First Street.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Erin Kuykendall. I'm a senior at Littleton High School.
No, you don't.
I'm
Ayush Kulkarni. I'm a senior at Littleton High School.
Arian Kulkarni, also a senior at Littleton High School.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
We could just also have one of them help fix his laptop.
Yeah. Josh, go ahead and write some code.
We also may not need to present the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Doing
good.
work.
Yeah. Just gonna zoom in.
Okay, that
Intuitive.
works too.
Mr. Corey always has a solution.
Well, let's see.
He's got it. He's gonna zoom in with the camera. Let's play up here.
Off that mirror, off that wall.
There's gonna be a glare off my head. Nobody will be able to see it. Maybe it's Anthony's.
Could be.
Triangulation.
Bouncing back and forth between the two views.
I'm Dylan Kaplan, as I said.
Okay.
Just for some statistics, we wanted to and then really put into perspective that 1 trillion plastic bags are used worldwide every year, and that 40% roughly of towns and cities in Massachusetts have some legislation passed to limit the use of plastic bags. Also, 1 million plastic bags tend to end up in trash every moment, so cutting down on that would be using. And 10% of the used plastic bags do end up in the ocean, and the United States is responsible for about 327 billion plastic bags in the ocean. And also, on the point of how the paper bags might not be as environmentally friendly transportation-wise versus decomposing, it takes about 1,000 years for a plastic bag to decompose. So if you're thinking about how many of those each person is using at every grocery store trip, it really would make a huge impact to eliminate the use of them.
All right, so next we're going to talk about plastic bags are getting into oceans. 40% of the ocean surface is actually covered in plastic currently. Sea creatures consume this plastic, and we end up actually eating a credit card a week worth of microplastics. So we're trying to limit that in the town of Littleton. A frequently asked question is about like the cost it will have on like local businesses. So each paper bag costs about 0.5 cents. So they will actually be saving money if customers bring their own bags.
So another frequently asked question is, aren't paper bags worse for the environment? And once again, we want to emphasize that paper bags are not our end goal. We want to encourage people to bring their own reusable bags while shopping. Paper bags are simply our intermediate solution to that movement. Paper bags also don't contaminate the food chain like plastic bags do. Plastic bags will get caught up in sea turtles and seagulls, and they die from contamination, which does not occur. And paper bags are also biodegradable. Another FAQ, aren't reusable bags unsanitary, but the solution is simply to buy washable, reusable bags, which can be cleaned with just simple water. And we're going to be working toward educating the community on using these bags and regularly washing them to make sure that they're sanitary.
Okay, so we just want to quickly go over the purpose of the bylaw. The purpose is to regulate the retail use of single-use plastic checkout bags and promote the use of reusable, recyclable, and biodegradable bags, reducing solid waste, minimizing litter, reducing microplastic ingestion, and the overall carbon footprint of the town of Littleton. And we would also like to note that we would be joining 147 towns across Massachusetts that have already adopted restrictions on the retail use of plastic bags. We also wanted to just quickly go through the bylaw itself, which I think we've already kind of gone over through your questions. So the first part there in the regulations is pretty straightforward. Single-use plastic bags shall not be distributed, used, or sold for checkout or other purposes at any retail establishment within the town of Littleton. But we want to note that we do have an exception for single-use plastic bags used to contain dry cleaning, newspaper, produce, meat, bulk foods, wet items, etc. This was one of the areas that may have caused some complaints, but the language here is consistent with what we've seen in the bylaws passed in other towns across Massachusetts. Let's see. And then moving on to the enforcement and penalties, as we've kind of brought up before, and what's been consistent across other bylaws passed by other towns in Massachusetts is that they have their town's Board of Health regulate the enforcement and penalties. So we chose to adopt that language as well, and we're currently in contact with the Littleton Board of Health, and we'll be working with them on this as well. I think that's all we had, but we're willing to take any questions or suggestions or feedback, anything of that sort.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you bringing this to us. I appreciate the work that you've done on creating it. I'm curious if you've spoken to any other towns and heard about the results of this, of enforcement and or any positive or negative impacts it's actually had.
So we haven't spoken to any other towns yet. That may be something that we want to do, but we've looked into the bylaws that many of the towns have passed, and the language in our bylaw is very consistent with those. It's nearly identical, and those bylaws that are passed are nearly identical to the one we're trying to pass. So the language here is like proven to work. It's clear that it works. So
I'd also just like to add that, like, in my personal life, I've asked people from like different towns, like if it's worked in their town. I work in Concord, so I work at a store that doesn't use paper bags or even like plastic water bottles, things like that. And they always say that their town is cleaner and that they just feel better about their environment and that they are really helping.
Thanks. Other board members have questions? No?
I mean, I
Great
guess
presentation.
yeah, but I would say that if this, say, it doesn't pass, it would be nice if it did. It was a great presentation. But if it doesn't pass, I would suggest giving the same presentation to, I don't know, some of our larger stores in town. I'm curious why some of the larger stores, especially, that are in many towns, they're already doing it in half of the towns that they serve. Why haven't they switched over? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, we contacted Market Basket a few months back, and the response was basically no comment. Like, they couldn't really say anything, you know?
Okay.
It's a great presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stick with it.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson made the comment that if it doesn't pass this year, John, I know you were here last year, to bring this forward, and just stick with it, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
Should we have a vote on this?
You usually don't
Typically
vote on
Select board,
citizens
doesn't-
petition.
Oh, right, correct,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay. Looks like we're back to Article 3,
Article 3, yes.
supplemental capital items.
Okay. So there's really two items here that we'll be talking about, both of which we're requesting a transfer from the Capital Stabilization Fund, which requires a 2/3 vote. So first item is $50,244 for a replacement vehicle for the fire chief. That number actually went down a little bit because it's inclusive of the trade-in. The chief's here, that number sound right to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but as part of what we're trying to do is also add a hybrid here to this, and we'll be potentially looking for funding through our Green Communities grant to fund this. But we need funding up front, and we do need it, and again, it's a 2/3 vote because it is transferred from the Capital Stabilization Fund. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, Chief?
Are there any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
We've gone over this, so.
Okay, same thing, just if I could continue, is the additional monies required for the communication center and infrastructure improvements. This was based upon an updated quote, and funds were provided at the spring town meeting, and based on this updated quote, the request now is for an additional $166,794. So I would also note in reviewing this, I have to, per the request of the Finance Committee, they asked that we sort of revise the language to explain that the total cost of the project's going to be $766,794. So we're going to update that as well in the description.
Thank you. Any comments on this?
I would just ask that if Finance Committee's already voted the recommendation, could you actually add that?
Right. So we have in the bottom is Finance Committee and Select Board. The hope is that the Select Board, knowing you've seen this a few times, we just kind of have it.
No, I mean, just to know, it's not good for us to know before we vote that the Finance Committee is right.
Right, so we included that in the memo in the beginning, so basically this is one of the articles.
This is one of those ones you don't have to take a position right now if you want. You can just wait and make the recommendation later.
Okay, so the Finance Committee is not.
But it's not. They haven't done any.
Actually, they have, Anthony, if I could correct you, actually, it's in the beginning of the memo. They did vote on it.
When do they have a meeting?
Yeah.
Select
Yeah,
Board.
there was a list of approved,
Yes,
recommended
the
items.
Finance Committee has voted and recommended articles. They wanted an enhanced description on the police communication center because they wanted the voters to realize the original amount that was voted. plus this amount for the total. And the other one that they wanted, that they did not make a recommendation on, was the split between the two on the Community Preservation Commission
Right.
for the borrowing. That's the only one. Otherwise, they had voted in favor of the other articles.
Yeah, here's the list. It's in the control sheet for 5B. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, plus split article 9.
Okay, Alicia, were they waiting on CPC judgment on the,
I can maybe speak to that. So there was, so I think that they were looking at the park project and were wondering why wasn't, and they had the opportunity to review it beforehand, because we basically had a figure in there. And the reason for that was that there's such a confined schedule with the tennis court project that we didn't have an opportunity to actually present it to the CPC beforehand. So we actually met with the CPC on Thursday night, and they had agreed to support the project and provide for $1.5 million. So I think that it was just a timing thing for them. I think that they understood the concept of what was trying to be put forward. And now that the CPC has actually made a recommendation, the hope would be that they would then meet, discuss it later, and be supportive of it. So they actually chose to withhold their vote at this time. So it would be forthcoming.
Any other comments on this article?
No.
Okay.
I have one, and I'm not going to try and derail anything on this, but a couple meetings ago, there was a presentation. The DPW asked for two things from the Capitol. One for the thermostats that we said we were going to apply for a Greens Community Grant, and the other was for the lighting for the garage that said the project was going to cost $32,800 and save $6,000 a year. So I don't want to derail this now, but we're being foolish not to keep these things going forward. I mean, it's late in the cycle to be putting this back in, this 32,000, whatever, but I really hope we figure out how to fund these things, because we keep asking for more money for the utilities bill, but yet here's a way we can cut our utilities bill, and we're not doing it. So that's my grandstand.
Thank you. Any others?
No, motion.
We have a motion for this one, for 3?
Sure.
Move the select board vote to recommend article number 3 of the special town meeting report. Do we need a number on that? Monetary?
Right, so it's
217,038?
217,038.
All right.
second it?
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item 4.
Okay, so this is Article 4. This is a request to transfer funds from certified free cash in the capital stabilization fund. This is another article that the Finance Committee chose to withhold a vote on because we have yet to certify free cash. So, which I don't know if you have anything else to say, but I think at this point we would ask the board to refrain from making a vote until such point that we have the free cash, can make a recommendation consistent with our
Sounds
fiscal policies.
Let's move on. That's fine.
Seem reasonable? Okay.
Unless anyone objects? Nope. Number 5.
Okay. So this is Article 5. This is a proposed transfer of $160,922.51 from certified free cash into the Oak Hill Stabilization Fund, which was created at the annual town meeting on May 2nd, 2022. So this is just fulfilling that promise and of why we established the Oak Hill Stabilization Fund, and to move those funds into the new account.
This is basically the cell tower revenues that we're moving.
That's my understanding.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the
No.
board? All right. Vote on recommendation then, if you would, Mr. Clerk.
Move the select board vote to recommend article number 5 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay.
Number 6.
Okay, so I maybe take Article 6 and 7 together. These are basically updates reflecting the change in amounts that individuals who are either a senior citizen tax work off or a veteran's property work off can partake in. So currently, the limit is $1,000. Both these articles propose to raise that amount to $1,500 and adjust the language that for town meeting, and basically town meeting is being asked to accept section 5K without any limitation in the amount. So if there are any other changes that happen in the future consistent with inflation or what have you, that those changes are allowed to happen. The town still has the program, but we're not coming back to town meeting every time there's a change in the dollar amount. So,
Right, there was an old town meeting warrant article that had this language in there, but it's actually just the vote of the select board, so really, you already took the vote to increase it from the 1,000 to 1,500, and this just codifies that and
Aligns us with the state, essentially.
well, it goes to an older article that we adopted, that we probably even, you have to adopt it then, because it's just simply the select board that's approves this.
The only thing I would add is I noticed on the front, the cover where all of these are in order, they're actually the same program, but you have them worded differently. One just says tax work-off, and the other says tax work-off abatement program.
It should.
I would just make them the same, that's all.
One should say senior tax work-off, and then the other one's veterans.
okay.
Tax work-off program, so we'll fix that.
Should 6 and 7, I think.
Move the select board vote to recommend Articles 6 and 7 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, the ayes have it.
Good.
Article 8.
All right, Article 8 is a proposed transfer of $437,000 from certified free cash to the Community Preservation Fund Housing Reserves, and to transfer the same amount from the Housing Reserves to the Littleton Affordable Housing Trust. So this is funded through 3 separate projects. One is $350,000 from the Cooper Farm Development, $42,000 from the Jones Meadow Development, and $45,000 from the Weber Village Development.
Commentary? No. Let's have a recommendation.
Do we want to take into consideration the Finance Committee's willingness, or they want to split number 9?
Yeah, number 9.
9.
They
All right.
voted in favor of 5?
That is my
This is
understanding.
8.
You have
Okay,
a-
thank you. Yes, they did.
Sorry. Move the select board vote to recommend Article number 8 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. So based on, as we were talking about earlier, about the Finance Committee's vote on the CPC article, one of the requests from the Finance Committee was to split this article basically into 2 votes, which we have done with the assistance of Town Council. First is to appropriate the percentages from the various reserves, which is items 1 through 5 up on the page. And the next piece is the separate piece, which is the Cooper Farm project, which CPC voted at their meeting last Thursday to fund at $1.5 million, with about $400,000 coming from the Recreation Reserve and the authorization of another $1.1 million to fund debt service on the project. We also committed to the CPC that we would be seeking other grants from the United States Tennis Association for the tennis and pickleball courts, and potentially, we had that item earlier on for Littleton Water Department, $200,000 that's coming in. And this would be something else the CPA would be supportive of to apply toward this project.
So will this become Article 9 and Article 10?
No, it's just the vote is, it's two separate motions. So I would note the motion 1 is just a majority vote, where the second motion would be a 2/3 vote required at town meeting, because we are proposing to issue debt based on this.
All right. Move this.
Oh, by the way, if I could give just a quick little update on what the project's looking like. This is just a slide from the current update of what this might look like. So just to give the board a quick overview, what's the darker blue here is the actual tennis courts. The space here in the lighter blue would be space that we could build on at a future time frame. Same here for pickleball courts, 2 prospective courts in the future. And then basically creation of a cul-de-sac here, turnaround, parking, and as well as one thing that the CPC did want was to make sure that these pathways that were connecting to the parking lot and connecting the pathways into the Cooper Farm development, that these be paved such that made for easy access, and if it was stone dust, that you'd be potentially dragging that on to the courts, which might impact the courts. So they wanted to pave that, and that basically raised the project from a $1.4 million project to a $1.5 million project. So very quick overview for you on that front, just to show you where that's at. And then I'll turn it back to Chuck so they can make his motion.
Can you go back there for a
Sure.
second? So there's no plans for sanitary facilities or space for them?
So what we're planning for here would be a space for porta potties on site. The site just did not lend itself in the uses for it to do anything more for it. And it's also, in terms of the maintenance, we talked about some of the challenges we're facing there. So to be able to do anything more permanent on this, the CPC, the town, just felt like the budget just wasn't there for it. So what
I understand the budget, but I thought when we were presented last meeting that there was room for it.
An alt item.
Yeah, there was room
Alt
for it,
item.
and I don't see where there's room for it here. That's
Right.
what concerns me.
The
is
big
that-
cul-de-sac, there's no room for it, that's for sure.
Sure. I'm looking, there is a space that they're talking about, maybe a concrete pad to be able to lay down, probably something to, maybe looking, I believe we talked about in this space, but I think that's something we can update for the next drawing, Mark, and make sure it's called out. But the point is that you'd have a stable setting for that. But it would just be porta potties, and likely ADA, also to have an ADA accessible porta potty as well.
Is all the vegetation gone, that buffer that is built in right now?
So one
Coming
of the
down Cooper Lane?
Yeah, so one of the things about that, the buffer, Cindy, is that in looking at it, you'll see that we do have money in here for plantings here. Well, I can't show it to you because, but basically on the southern portion of the site. And then we're also looking just south of the parking lot at basically an open field area. We're not really thinking of this as a traditional field in the way that we're going to irrigate it or throw a lot of money into it, but we do believe that they might be able to take off some of the pressure at St. Anne's for some of the tot soccer as a possible location there. But in terms of the actual vegetation that you're referring to that's adjacent to Cooper Farm Road, most of that is the trees there. The consultant thought that it was just mainly scrub type of trees that really weren't aligning themselves to being a permanent part of the site. Not to mention to maximize use of the site. The recommendation was to clear some of it so that they could again use that space down in the southern portion of the site for some sort of open space and recreation as well.
Okay.
So that's what they were looking to do.
I had a question regarding the stone dust versus asphalt.
Mm-hmm.
Did conservation or anyone else opine based upon
No, I mean,
impervious materials?
I mean, generally speaking, I think Conscom would like to have, more of the crushed stone. In fact, what we're looking at is that the actual, in a way to cut down cost, we are looking at with the cul-de-sac coming in the parking lot would be crushed stone. However, the walking paths would be pavement, is what we're looking at. It's, to kind of come into CPC and asking for this kind of money, we want to be very cost conscious about what we're asking. Mm-hmm. And so we tried to find ways to make it as affordable as possible, because when you look at it, it's really not that, you think, okay, we're just replacing 2 tennis courts and adding 4 pickleball courts. It shouldn't be that expensive, but once you start getting into site work, drainage, having to make the connection off the trails and have something more formal along those lines, you have a pad for the porta potties, it adds up. And it's public construction, which makes everything that much more expensive.
Right.
So it's consistent with the sidewalks that are already in place too.
It actually has a connection you can
Yeah.
see at the top,
Yeah.
so anybody who's walking along Great Road will also have access to the site as well.
And is that a conservation trail along the left side?
Right, that's
It goes
right.
down
So
into-
exactly,
Yeah.
right. And then goes further south through that into, I can't remember, what's the development south of that, Chuck, do you remember? It's-
Yeah,
Okay, right, so it connects there as well. So the hope is it can open up that entire neighborhood to be able to come
Onto
and
Goldsmith.
access this. So that's the
Goldsmith.
hope.
Great.
And, yeah.
It's like a little bonus presentation we got.
It is a bonus
Yeah,
presentation.
this is-
I'm not crazy about the lollipop, but
I'm a little disappointed because when we presented this last meeting, we talked about a dog park here and sanitary facilities, and I don't see where you're gonna fit any of that.
as alt ads.
Right.
Yeah, well, yes, but tell me where they're gonna fit.
No, I don't, I'm not disagreeing with you.
And the
Yeah.
tree, we had the nice buffer of trees that are now gone,
Right.
right, so I
It's
feel a
a-
little hoodwinked.
So, if I could, Mr. Chair, to Mark, so this is really a very preliminary design at this point. You know, what we talked about at the meeting was looking at the feasibility of what the cost would be to look at facilities, to look at the dog park. One of the issues with the dog park is that for anybody who's played tennis before, it takes a little bit of concentration, and, you know, so if you've got a bunch of dogs socializing and barking and trying to get along, it was one of those things, we looked at the options, that it was a recommendation of the engineer we're working with, that thought maybe it wouldn't be as prudent for this particular site. So, you know, and again, I think the thing to keep in mind, we're really trying to do this more than anything else for, you know, for a cost estimate and to give a general design of what we're looking at. We know that the final design, once we get into that, is gonna look a little different, but, you know, certain things, look at it, why is it at that angle? It's at that angle because if you're playing tennis, you don't wanna have the sun directly into your eyes. So, these are all the things that, you know, why we brought in an expert engineer to give guidance on some of these things. And, so, you know, that, there were things that were considered, but ultimately, again, because of a cost matter, you know, and again, presenting it to CPC and trying to get them to accept it and fund it, these are the choices we made.
Not to mention the fact that if you hit a tennis ball into the dog park, man, it's gone.
Gets costly.
Are there any other comments on the Article 9? No? Could we have a motion?
Move the select board vote to recommend Article 9 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Number 10.
Okay, this is to fund the collective bargaining agreement reached with Littleton Professional Firefighters Association. So total amount's $188,000, of which $38,732 is for retroactive payments from fiscal year 2022, and $149,890 is to fund the FY23 obligation.
Comments or questions from the board? Okay.
Move the select board vote to recommend Article number 10 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay.
Numero 11.
Okay, this is Article 11. So this was, we discussed this earlier tonight. This is the updating of the grid for Schedule A. We are also making changes to reflect the fact that under Schedule B and B1 and C, that the minimum wage is changing to $15 effective as of January 1st, 2023. So that is what's before you. I would say, though, we know we might have some other changes on this, so maybe the board would choose to defer to vote on this until a later point.
Seems reasonable. Does anyone have objections to deferring?
We're absolutely going to have to.
Okay, let's defer then. That's fine.
Okay.
12.
For on 11, okay. Okay, Article 12, this was something that was brought up by Cindy, and I think with Mark as well. So this is a reflection of the discussion we had at our one of our more recent meetings, and reflecting what town council reflected as low-hanging fruit, updates to items that probably we can clean up in our bylaw with relative ease. So this is just going through and executing those changes and making those recommendations to town meeting.
Great. Comments?
Can we go back?
Yeah, we can go back. That's all right.
The actual compensation grid is not going to change, so I take that back. I believe the numbers, Michelle, I think the grid is correct. It's potential positions within the grid that can change, but we don't need town meeting for that.
That's correct. So technically, you don't need town meeting, but since it was such an overhaul, we decided to bring it in front of town meeting and the honorable board. The numbers on the grid are not going to change, the hourly rates, the annual rates, but the positions where they're slotted in the grades will potentially change.
And this is more for informational purposes.
Understood.
So
Will this not make it into the printed warrant, though? Any changes that we make from here on out?
Well, this will be a handout, so.
Yeah,
would-
right.
That's,
A
it'll
handout.
go in the warrant as is. We'll probably take out the job descriptions. I mean,
Correct,
the
just-
job titles.
right, so that would be
We'll take
be
that
an
out.
insert or not.
Or, we really don't have to include that.
We don't. This is definitely for informational.
Right.
It changes throughout the year anyway.
So really what we're voting on is the grid.
The grid.
So maybe we do want to recommend.
Sorry, I brought you back
That's,
to that.
yeah, bastard.
Move the select board vote to recommend Article
11?
10.
11.
11.
All right, sorry.
10 was a collective
All right,
bargaining.
all right, you'll let me. Move the select board vote to recommend Article 11 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, on to 12. Sorry about that.
And that was, again, that was just more of the housekeeping
Right.
pieces that, again, Mark and Cindy had, had pointed out, and again, town council agrees that we can clean some of these things up.
Any comments? Seems very straightforward. No, go ahead. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Move the select board vote to recommend Article 12
I know, right?
of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay.
13.
This is the inclusionary housing bylaw. So, I don't know if you want to say anything about this, or we,
I think you can explain it.
Sure. So this would add A&R plans to our inclusionary housing zoning bylaw. Right now, it covers subdivisions and any new housing units created through special permit process. And this was a loophole that we didn't know we had, but now we're trying to close.
I'd also note this is a 2/3 vote required, because it's changes on.
Comments, questions?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Move the select board recommend Article 13 of the special town meeting report.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by, who did it? Gary? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I would just ask through the
5-0.
chair. Mayor, so is this, it's a loophole, but has it been exploited in Littleton already?
Yes.
That's how you
Just wanna
found the
make sure.
loophole?
Yes.
Yeah, figures.
Just want to get it on record.
14.
Yes, well, Marion's still here. I think we're moving right along. I think there's a hearing scheduled that we've already advertised for the acceptance of Douglas Street, which is part of Durkee Estates. So that layout should be coming to you, I think, at the October 11th?
Yes, that's the hope. And the hope is that by that time, the planning board will be able to say that everything's patched up and
Is
ready
this
to
the
go.
final,
Boxes
is this the
checked.
final road in Durkee Farm?
Yes,
Okay.
Durkee and K combined.
Okay. All right, any comments, questions?
Move the select board vote to recommend Article 14 of the special town meeting report.
Just
Second.
one, should we wait for the planning board to approve it, or?
We can-
The process is, sorry,
Please go ahead.
the process is that you will hold a hearing on it, and the planning board will make a recommendation at that hearing. So actually, you might want to wait.
That's a good suggestion.
Let's just wait and recommend,
Okay.
if we want to
What's
recommend
coming?
it at the town meeting, we can recommend the town.
You've got a motion and a second on the floor.
No,
I'll withdraw the motion.
oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Article 15.
This is the citizen petition for limiting the number of marijuana farms in Littleton.
So we're
And
not going to
so
vote, we're not going to recommend.
No
citizen-
presentation tonight, no recommendation, just to make you aware of it. It's in the document.
Great. Okay, and I believe that covers all of our item 5, is that correct?
It does, it just is some wrap-up, it's just a wrap-up motion. This one, I point to Chuck to see. Basically, this is just allowing us to approve the special town meeting report per any adjustments voted at your meeting tonight, and then, again, subject to approval by town council, such that if we see anything, any spelling errors or any other sort of minor things that aren't substantive, we have the right to be able to do that.
Move that the select board vote to approve the special town meeting report per the adjustments voted at our September 26, 2022 meeting, subject to approvals as to form by town council.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay. I think that pretty much concludes
great.
everything on item 5, unless you want to spend any more time there, but I think we're
I don't
all set
really.
on that, so.
Do we need to close the warrant?
Let's see, we would also, yes, that should have.
Close and post.
You could close, vote to close and post, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that didn't, yes.
Move the select board vote to close and post special time meeting warrant for November 1st.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Gary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. The warrant's closed. We have an official town meeting, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Nagog Orchard. Ms. Napoli, take it away.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had a walkthrough of the orchard with John Clement from UMass, who has been out to the orchard before, and I just wanted to share what we spoke about during that time with the board, and also Connor Reardon from the Littleton Electric Light Water Department did some aerial drone footage of the orchard that I wanted to share with you as well, just so that I could give you some visuals about what we talked about during the walkthrough with Mr. Clement. So this is an aerial view of the orchard. You can see the farmhouse in the far distance. You can see Field 6 behind the farmhouse in the upper right-hand corner. The closest to you at the bottom of the screen is Fields 5 and 4. And then you can see Field 9 up the street a little bit to the right, or to the left rather. So can you go to the next image, Ryan, please? So this is an image of Field 6. You can see that the trees are quite sparse in this field. This is where the peach trees are and the stone fruit. Thanks, Chuck. That whole field, yeah.
The stone fruit down there, right?
Yeah, we didn't go down into that field, but we just really walked through Field 6. It's his recommendation that all the trees in this field be cleared. Fruit trees, peach trees have a lifespan of 10 years. And it's clear to him that these trees were planted a lot longer than 10 years ago.
Probably.
By Mr. Morrison.
Right, and some of the trees that we did note, the tree's been cut, and the fruit is actually growing on just an offshoot of what was the tree. And during the walkthrough too of this field with our proposed lessee, he also mentioned to me that he felt something was going on with this field. The trees in this field are just not thriving. So it was Mr. Clement's recommendation that the trees in this field be cleared. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, that gives you a good visual to the back of the house behind the,
So this is where
that's the,
Mr. Auger lived.
yeah.
And that's Field 9.
That's Field 9. Right. So you see the rows running horizontally as opposed to vertically. Those are actually in really good shape, and they're doing quite well. Those were trees that he recommended we focus on pruning, and the Nagog Hill Orchard Working Group supported that as well. So we wanted to bring that to the board. Could you go to the next slide, Ryan, please? So this is an image of fields. This is 4, 5, 3. This is the big field, like heading down towards Newtown Road.
Clancy's house?
Clancy's house, basically. So it was John's recommendation. He said fields 4 and 5 are in really good shape. He said field 3, which is beyond that,
Down the hill.
not in good shape. He honestly, he thought for what it would cost to prune that, clear that, replant that, it's just not fiscally feasible, cost effective, thank you. So he felt really to concentrate just in general on fields 4 and 5. He actually felt like the other fields, Field 3 would actually make a great open space area. A wildlife preserve is what he referred to it as. He just said, we walked it's gnarly in there. I mean, once you get past 4 and 5 and head towards Clancy's house,
It's all sloped down.
Yeah,
So
right.
you can see the the AT&T tower.
Right. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of property, but it's just.
Is that hedgerow right at the bottom of the picture, the divider line between 3 and 4, do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see it, but you can actually maybe see the stone walls are in there too.
Okay.
That's what divides the fields.
The structures too.
Yeah. We had pruned 4 and 5, fields 4 and 5 last year. John said that it's not horrible if we don't do that this year. He said more often than not, there will be a gap in the pruning cycle. So he thought it was fine if we did not prune those trees this year.
That's good.
Can you go to the next slide, Ryan, please? And so then this is another image.
That's 3.
Yeah, we're
In
getting
the 4, that's 3 in the front, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so you can see it now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because there's the, what's left of it.
Barn.
Yeah. Right, so it's just not doing well. So I just wanted to share that with the board. Can you go to the next slide, Ryan? So this is, there's a row of trees. See where that fence post is, or that, whatever that was? That, if you go straight down that row that lines up with that fence, with that post, that whole row of trees is actually diseased. It has fire blight, which is contagious. It's transmitted by rain and insects. And so that whole row of trees need to be removed from the orchard because it could contaminate the other trees in the orchard.
And it needs to be removed soon.
Yes.
The apples are spicy.
And so that was a recommendation from the working group that the board approved the removal of that row of trees. The trees to the right of it are, what are they, macoons?
Yeah.
There's actually 3 rows of those that are in really good shape, and he said that those are a desirable apple, so that we should prune those trees as well, but preserve those 3 rows. He felt that aside from the 3 rows of macoons that run, what do I want to say,
Perpendicular to the road?
perpendicular.
Yeah.
And the rows that I pointed out to you earlier that run horizontal to Nagog Hill Road, he said all the other trees in that orchard should just be taken out. Yeah. He just felt like they're just not worth, and Ryan, want to go to one more slide? I don't know if I have any, yeah. So those are some of the diseased trees.
Okay.
And want to go one more? Diseased tree.
Better, yeah.
And so those are the ones that are in better shape. But want to go one more too? I'm sorry, I don't know if, that's a peach tree.
You can
that's
see where
growing
it's
up.
been cut and
Yeah,
then it's
exactly.
regrown.
And
There's
I
a
don't,
stump down at the bottom.
right, and just one more, Ryan, I don't know if there is one. Oh, so that's just a bit of the orchard. So the other trees in that field 9, with the exception of the ones that I just talked to you about, he felt they all need to be cleared. He just said it's just not, for what it would cost to clean them up and trim them back, he feels like they're too far gone. And so that's something that we need to share with the proposed lessee during our negotiations, and it's up to him what he wants to do with it, but.
Well, they did talk about, they want to do a massive replant anyway to some degree, so that makes.
Yeah, it's just, it's gonna be expensive, and like Mr. Clemens said from UMass, he said, you really kind of need to come up with like a master plan for the orchard and what you want to save and what you want to remove. And he felt that ideally, if the orchard was just 20 acres, it would be much more manageable for anybody. And there's other uses in that whole orchard. There's other agricultural uses, like Will Pickard mentioned during the working group meeting. He said, you could have hay, you could have pumpkins, you could have corn, you could have berries, you could have apples. You could do something that it would be a year-round operation. Just the way that land is laid out, there's definitely a lot of potential there for that. But, so the working group did make a recommendation to the select board to just prune those specific trees in field 9 that I identified, and then to just remove that row of diseased trees.
And not do anything else, basically.
And not do anything else.
So talk to Shannon, and as far as the removal, that's part of the negotiation or on him when the lease is signed. Like if he wants to remove those, that's going to be not our concern right now.
The diseased trees?
No, the other ones that need to be.
Oh, yeah, the other ones, that's totally up to him. I mean, especially, fields, what did I say, field 6 next to the barn, like, if he wants to clear those for something, then that's fine, for another use. So that's where we're at. That's the update on the orchard, and I did get an update from town council today about the lease negotiations. I just haven't had time to read it prior to our meeting tonight.
And then I have a very quick update on the water situation. The well was never used for irrigation. It was always pumped out of the reservoir into a holding pond and then pumped from there into an irrigation system. The holding pond is there, the pipes from the reservoir are there. There is the remains of a pump, which is just basically a rusted shell right above the holding pond, and then every bit of irrigation pipe that leads from that location has been cut off, maybe 20 feet from that shed. So there's no evidence that the irrigation system is even remotely intact, and even worse than that, we don't have a water source. We don't know whether that well will supply enough water for irrigation. So I am trying to, and I haven't been lately, but I'm trying to find a well company to come and investigate it. Obviously, they've been quite busy, and I'm going to continue to follow up on that. My suggestion is the irrigation is going to be on the lessee, but the well may be on us. And we can talk about that when we know more about what we have and what we need.
Right, and Mr. Will Pickard had mentioned too, just because of the APR restrictions on that property, if we are going to drill a well, we're going to have to do a little research into that. We might have to get approval from the state.
And there also may be grants available for water supply.
Right, and that was the other thing too.
So we may not have to pay.
We might be able to get grant money for it.
50 grand for a well.
But I mean, there could be an individual well in each one of the fields.
There could be, yeah.
Right, yeah, so.
Mr. Chair, just a couple other quick updates on things the board had, if you're done, when you're done.
Yeah, I'm
do you have
done.
anything else? So regarding other charges that we've been given, we have a quote, just finalizing up a quote to remove the pesticides from the site, which the board had authorized in one of the prior meetings. We just want to make sure it's consistent with state pricing. We're getting good value for what we're looking to do. We're also working with getting one more cut down at the orchard as well, so we're making arrangements to time that depending on when the individual who's been doing it would be able to find time in his schedule to do that, so that we're going to be moving that forward as well. We also did get a quote for the cleaning of the house, which was close to about $2,000 to do a cleaning, so I know we asked about that as well, so we have that and can forward it with you, and I'll make a note to do that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great, thank you for that, Ryan.
So do we need a motion on paying for the pruning of the set of trees that he recommended and cutting down the ones that are blight?
Right, so we'd have to issue an RFP for that, correct?
I'm not sure the size of it, but, it would be anything, most likely. I think we'd have to scope it out and see what it would be. So
Yeah,
I can
it's
report
easy
back
enough
to
to
you.
just count the number of trees in those rows, just to be more specific with the RFP.
Well, I'm curious
Call
if
for the pruning.
the gentleman that does the upkeep that's been there, I can't think of his name, is that something he's done in his service to that?
No, the gentleman that's there now doing the mowing
Yeah.
can't do the pruning.
Did you have something more?
So I'm not in favor of funding the pruning right now, because we don't know what the leasing is going to do. Once we're farther along the process with that, unless there's a reason we need to prune them in the fall, I don't think it's something that we should be funding now.
Right.
If the trees are diseased, we should take them down
Right.
before they cause other problems, but the pruning, I don't know, is
Well, the issue, Mark, is we have to issue an RFP for the pruning now, or we won't get somebody to do it. Because,
In the spring. it would be-
For an April pruning.
Yeah.
no,
February?
they prune in the winter. They
February.
prune.
Yeah, February.
February. I think.
Yeah,
they said.
January or February is when they prune.
But if we are going to have someone that's taking over the management and lease of the orchard, why would we issue an RFP for work that he should be doing?
Because I don't want to run in to have it be January and have us not have an agreement with him, and then we've missed the window to get somebody to prune the trees. We can issue the RFP, we don't have to award it. but we can just put it out there to get some quotes. I mean, it's gonna take some time to do that. It's already October, just
And this is a
about.
much, much smaller scope than we were thinking. This
Very
is like
small.
3 or 4 rows of trees, is that accurate? 5?
It might be close to,
It's more than that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely smaller than the scope. I think the scope last year was 2,000 trees or something crazy. It's definitely a smaller scale.
Okay.
And that's something too that we could talk to him about, the proposed lessee too, and just see if he wants to come in and do it himself, you know, with his own team, I don't know.
In some of the trees that we want to prune, he might come in and mow down. I mean, so it's,
Yeah.
I guess we don't want to prune trees that he's not
Right.
going to use.
So but I would like us to take action on those diseased trees and just get those out of there personally, but it's up to.
I think we can do that with our own resources, though.
You think, oh, you know what, the trees are so, I don't see why we couldn't.
We really could. We could go in there with a backhoe and a guy on a chainsaw. You know, I think
You
that
got a
way-
guy?
Yeah, I got
Volunteering.
4 boys at home, 3 pickup trucks and 2 chainsaws.
Yeah, we actually could do that,
Mark and I are gonna have a big applewood fire in
But
Mark's
we-
backyard.
yeah. I mean, I just don't know if we have town resources for that, or do you want to just put together
How many trees are we talking?
probably 8?
Let's have a work day.
Honestly, something like that, I think is more prudent than, I wouldn't put, I think it's more, I think you're cutting, I think it's a lot more than 8, but it's 1 row.
It might
It's
be
probably
12.
20 trees, maybe, whatever it is.
Okay.
I think it's very manageable if we had a half dozen people out there with some chainsaws and some, I don't know,
Hauling
just
all-
look the other way.
Hauling all the wood away is gonna be the biggest job.
We'll talk.
Okay.
So the pruning discussion, I think, if it got into a situation where he was moving in, or if this ends up happening, we have to be prepared if it doesn't.
Right.
We'll have to prune it, right? But if he moves in and it's not pruned yet, maybe there's a discussion on his first year of lease is paid, you know, he's living there, or he's using the facility for a year. Since he's gonna be pruning it instead of us. I don't know, you know what I mean?
Well, we could ask him through negotiations, if this is what we've identified, this is what we're planning to
Yeah.
prune.
But
What are your
regardless, we
plans?
can do the RFP just in case.
I would like to issue it just in case,
Yeah.
and just have it,
And that's how that works, we don't have to.
because that takes time anyways,
You
right,
don't have to award.
Anthony? To issue an RFP for that.
It depends what the dollar amount is. It doesn't have to necessarily be an RFP. It can just be getting 3 quotes from, and all you have
Oh,
to do is
yeah.
solicit 3 quotes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to receive them, you have to solicit, so.
Under a certain
Okay.
We
amount.
have the one person that did it last year, I'm sure he'd be interested in it, and I don't know if there was any others that
Yeah, we
Joe
got
had
in like 4
identified.
quotes last year.
Yeah, it's just getting quotes again, but
So
it's
we
not
could
an
just call up
RFP.
those
It's just,
people.
yeah, it's just get
All right,
price
so
quotes.
that's easy enough.
Yeah.
So I could count the trees. I'll count the trees.
That's not a bad
I'd say maybe just get like some ribbon from
Yeah, I agree.
from
Once we want to move.
conservation.
Just so
or
we
from
know
Steve.
exactly what we
Yeah.
want.
Which ones you want, yeah, so you don't.
Which ones we
destroy
want
it.
removed,
Yeah.
just so that you know which ones they are, you know which
Okay.
row it is. So maybe, I mean, if you
Spray
said
paint.
yarn or
That's spray
whatever.
paint.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
other thing is,
Should I get a yellow ready?
we need to figure out what removal means. I mean, I'm obviously
Myron,
putting
thank
them
you.
out, but then
Thank you.
can they be chipped in place? Do they have to be hauled off-site?
Right, do
We
we
have
have
to
to
get
do we have to dig out the
I,
root
I,
balls?
I don't know what it, I'm assuming we have to do something. with it.
Well,
I
the
just
thing
don't know
is
what it
too, we gotta remember that they're diseased.
Yeah.
So we gotta figure out how we get rid of them.
Right, do we have to remove the root balls?
I doubt it.
I just think as far as chipping, does stuff go flying
Right,
everywhere?
right.
Is that an
I'd be
issue?
concerned about that, but I think that if we cut them down, we got them to a portion of the property that could be chipped, dumped into a truck. and-
Let's have somebody who knows.
Who would that be?
The guy that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Well, we're saying we're not gonna hire him.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
That's what
Oh.
yeah, that's what we're saying, right? So let's figure out what we're gonna do. We should decide what we're gonna do and not leave it vague, so.
All right, we're gonna mark the
I'm
trees.
just picturing
Fire
like
blight?
plaid, I'm picturing you guys all in
All right,
plaid.
so mark it.
Shirts with work
Lumberjack.
Bob
boots
the Builder.
on and little hats,
Mark the
little
trees.
lumberjack hats. I'm kinda seeing it.
It's gonna be a retreat.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's.
Team building.
Let's start with,
Team
let's start
building.
with marking the trees.
Okay, I'll mark the trees.
If the board's pleasure, I would given that we're over, I'd prefer to postpone the goals until next meeting, just to get out of here. So we need to approve the side letters, and discussing a potential means to recognize Ed Howard, which actually could be pretty brief. Because Anthony, you mentioned something to me when we discussed this quickly about, I was saying put his name in a room on the new senior center. And you were, basically saying, well, are we giving something up by doing that? So that's why I wanted to have this conversation.
So one of the things that we talked about is, when you go into a more city area like my city, they dedicate street corners and so forth. The thought was if we could maybe put a monument or something at the same location where the hot dog stand is, to memorialize Ed. That could be an option. We could probably come up with a half dozen different options to recognize Ed. We talked about, before he was passed away, we thought that, we'd have an opportunity at the special town meeting to recognize him. Unfortunately, that.
I was thinking more, even a bench. in his
Bench,
name.
right, you could,
If we have a portion of.
Like in front of the senior center?
It could be anywhere, really.
Or
you could even do it right at the location of the
trailer.
the weenies.
In memory.
Yeah. Put a bench where,
It's
private
leased.
property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
there's certain amount of easement space that we could look at. Yeah, it might be state-owned,
Could do it
but
at the end of Lawrence.
we could explore. Or even with private property, we could talk to the person
You know
about
what I
easement.
personally would like to do?
What?
I would like to do something at the entrance into the senior center and just have actually a nice picture with him and with an acknowledgement, so that people see it. I mean, he did a lot,
That's
he
a
gave
good
a
idea,
lot
yeah.
to the
Time
town.
of day.
He
Oh, not
donated
For
so
your
much
generous
money.
donations to the seniors and
For over
Health and human
all those years. I think, I'm just looking at this picture of him that was in his obituary. It's a really nice photo of him. It would be nice to just have that and just a nice acknowledgement of him so that everybody could see it when they walked by it. I mean, benches and things are nice, but
Have we talked at all about, go ahead.
I was just saying, like the Charles K. plaque in the auditorium, in the middle school
right.
lobby, something like that.
Yeah, I think that would be nice.
Have we talked about fundraising and selling things like they did at the library, selling bricks or plaques or locations or anything like that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Do you feel like it's likely that we'll do something like that?
Hopefully, yeah.
So
no.
Mark can certainly speak to that, but there was a ton of effort, a ton of
Yeah, no, I
time, and a
know.
ton of very committed people that executed that and got that done, so that's what we need.
And we started a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know.
I mean, it's only,
I guess
outside of another group, it would be the Friends that could
Yeah.
do that. Or another group would have to start, because I don't think the senior, the Council on Aging isn't,
The Council on Aging can't do it.
can't do
They
that.
can't do
so.
it.
I mean, I would guess I would prefer it be at the senior center than at the location of his hot dog
Yeah, I
stand.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. No, we were talking in general fundraising,
Yeah,
but,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So do you guys want to do something like this?
I mean, I like that idea. I mean, I don't,
Picture of him?
Yeah, I think that would be nice.
it doesn't have to be big.
No.
I think that's an awesome picture of him. I think that a lot of people remember him with his Ed Sweeney's hat, his Got
Yeah,
Weenies
whatever
shirt.
you want to do,
If
right.
there's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
that
sure
would-
there are, because he did, he did stuff at Fay Park.
You could
He
even
did,
do a thing like you could
used to-
have a picture of
The cart.
the cart and then a picture of him and do like something like that.
So it sounds like we need to wait till
We've got
the
time.
senior
on this.
center is a little more
Yeah.
further along.
Well, actually, that was one of my questions, is should we do, if we're gonna do like a bronze plaque or something like that, do we wanna do one and like basically put it in a shed until the senior center's ready, or are we gonna wait 2 years until we have a senior center?
I think
don't
it's
know if
okay
they
to
have
wait.
their own.
It's just a long wait.
So, I think we do wait, but I do think it would be appropriate for us to do something on a much smaller scale with just a laser etch, picture of Ed and a thank you from the town. That could be hung on the exterior of the cart.
So what,
Oh, I like
so
that
I'll
idea.
the Rotary, when they did the plaque that's in this room, they basically had a foam core one made until the plaque was here. So we could basically say, do a foam core one for there of whatever it's
Yeah,
going to be.
that's good. That's
Definitely a
good.
smaller scale, because it's gonna be hung at, on the side of his building. It's,
Okay,
or the side.
Yeah, I like that idea.
yeah, me too.
Right, Zoni's building.
But who leads that charge? And who goes out after the plaque and the design and all that?
So I will talk to Rotary about how they did
Yeah, that's a
their
good idea.
plaque, but someone else can be leading the design of it. I'll
Okay.
find out information from them on how they did theirs.
Thank you, that's
I can do
great.
it, Comps.
Should we do the side letters? That's the last item that we haven't done. Of public vote on those two side letters that we talked about earlier.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, and the minutes, which are one paragraph.
All right.
Oh,
Do you want to tee this up at all, or are we done?
I think we can just do it. I think we all agree.
Move the select board vote to approve the side letter of agreement with Mass Cop Local 204, Littleton Police Department, and move the select board vote to approve the side letter of agreement with the Littleton Dispatch Unit, Massachusetts Coalition of Police Local 204A, and move the select board vote to approve the side letter of agreement with AFSCME Local 1703, Littleton Highway Department.
second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy.
I did much better on reading it.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And the minutes, which is one paragraph. It was basically, we met, we voted, we left. So if anyone has any objections,
Move the select board vote to approve the meeting minutes of September 19th, 2022, open session.
Second.
motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
motion made by Chuck, seconded by Cindy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're done. Thank you. Good night.
Hi, Littleton. See you Wednesday, I guess.
Good one.